Ice in my veins. Holy moly. Materializing Excalibur, Noah looked at the blade in awe. This looks sick as fuck. Unfortunately, there was no target in sight, so Noah couldn't do much with it other than swing it around. But still, it looked sick as hell. And that was all that mattered. It was a good decision to apologize to Jean. Noah smugly nodded, satisfied with his haul. Who cared if the majority of the things he got were shit? He got a noble phantasm on the scale of a divine construct. Noah placed the sword into his inventory, content. Grabbing the neck of the rabbit he killed, Noah quickly made his way back to the church. With his skill furthest earth, distance wasn't an issue. I'm back. Opening the doors to the church, he saw both Lavinia and Griselda looking at him in relief. What? Noah was confused. It hadn't been that long, maybe an hour and a half. Nothing, so is the rabbit your hunt? Noah nodded. Yep, I also got some clothing options for Lavinia as well. Really? Lavinia's face brightened. Yeah, no cap no kizzy. I'll show you after we eat. Plus, I have a question. Shoot. Licking off the remnants of his breakfast, Noah laid down like a deadbeat father. How did you do that? Griselda pointed at the Japanese brazier that was placed in the middle of the church. There was no change in space and no mana used, it was like it just popped into existence. Oh that, I don't know, just did it. Noah shrugged. No need to explain his system to Griselda, not for the reason of trying to monopolize his shit like it was his lifeline, but cause in most cases it was just a dispenser for useless items. How would he even explain it? Oh yeah, I have this system. You know what that shit is? No, then just think of it as something that randomly gives me shit. Noah paused. Wait, that was a perfect way to explain it. Why didn't he think of that? You know what a system is? Griselda paused. Was he talking about a computer system? How was that relevant to the conversation? No, Griselda nodded. It's like something that just randomly gives me shit. I can't use it all the time though. There wasn't any reason for him to be gatekeeping this information. What were they going to do? Take the system from him? Joke's on you, it wasn't even a sacred gear. Ah, so was that what you meant by gambling? Noah lagged for a second, trying to remember what she meant by that. Thinking back to his reasoning for going hunting, Noah nodded. Yeah. Griselda fell into thought. Was this an unknown sacred gear? But the purpose was too broad. Don't overthink it. Just think of it as gambling. Griselda reluctantly nodded. So what kind of clothing did you get me? Lavinia asked, finishing off her own share of meat. Noah looked at his inventory. Outfit Rama Stage 1. Outfit Yoshiwakamaru Swimsuit Stage 3. Outfit Nemo Captain Stage 3. Craft Essence Heroic Spirit Formal Dress, Bedivere. Outfit Oda Nobukatsu Stage 1. Outfit Typhon Ephemeros Stage 1. These were the 6 outfits that he got from the gacha pulls earlier. Nemo's outfit was out. That shit was going to give him an extra skill. Yoshiwakamaru's outfit was out as well. He wasn't a weirdo. So Rama, Bedivere, Oda Nobukatsu, and Typhon. I will not be describing the outfits in detail since I know jack shit about clothing names and seems like a pain in the ass. Also, these outfits automatically adjust to your size, so don't worry about the size being whack. Noah added. Lavinia nodded. I don't know what they look like either, so don't look at me like I'm a pervert if something accidentally inappropriate comes up. Here's the first one. Noah took out Rama's outfit in front of the 2 girls. Lavinia looked at it, inspecting it with seriousness. Personally, Noah didn't like the design as it showed the shoulders and was rather tight-fitting. Griselda inspected it. She tapped at the dress, and pulled at the fabric. This dress was probably more durable than her own combat attire. Pulling out random things and calling it shit. My brother in Christ, it's probably better than most outfits for exorcists. Noah, who hadn't bothered testing the durability of his outfits seeing as he wasn't planning on getting hit, pain was scary. He wasn't one of those MCs who when isekai'd, somehow had their pain resistance skyrocket. Looked at Griselda's expression of jealousy with confusion. Did this woman want it instead? It looked multitudes better than her current pedobait outfit. Lavinia shook her head left and right. I don't really like it. Noah shrugged. It's fine if you don't like it. I don't really like it either. As Noah was about to put the outfit in his inventory to rot, Griselda called out. Wait, you want it? Noah raised the outfit toward Griselda. Even though the type moon gacha system was his golden finger, he wasn't like those weirdos who hogged even the most useless of items. If he didn't have his golden finger, he would just be a exceedingly attractive Shota. It was something that was given to him, not his from the beginning. Why act like a landlord if the land wasn't even his? He was humble like that. Why hoard if you wasn't going to use the damn thing? Griselda nodded, taking the outfit. Thank you. Yeah, it's not that special. Not special. The outfit itself was probably multiple levels higher than what she could ever afford, and this guy wasn't saying it was special. Fuck ass. Gives me shit. What was Noah on? Nonetheless, Griselda thanked Noah. Here's the next one. A rather dapper-looking military outfit and a white cape. Color scheme-wise, it fit Lavinia rather well. Noah nodded in approval. If he didn't have his Nemo outfit, he would probably choose this one. It didn't show any skin either. However, in contrast to Noah's thoughts, Lavinia didn't really like it that much. As a little girl, wanting to wear cute things was normal, right? The suit didn't call out to her. I don't know about this one. Wah. Noah looked at her in confusion. What was bad about this outfit? It looked sick and dapper as fuck. But nonetheless, Noah made to put it away. Maybe he could wear it if Nemo's extra skill wasn't good or when he didn't need it. Excuse me. Noah looked at Griselda in confusion. Bitch, you want another one? Griselda had the decency to look embarrassed. Personally, I believe that showing less skin is good as a daughter of God, and while I do extremely appreciate the outfit you gave me, she trailed off. Noah looked at her with confusion. So it was cause of the skin? Noah looked at Bedivere's outfit and thought. Well, it was just an outfit. He sighed, handing it over to Griselda. It wasn't good for a 13-year-old to be showing much skin either. Thank you. Griselda bowed in thanks, much louder when she got Rama's outfit. Don't ask me for any more. Noah warned, and Griselda quickly nodded, resembling a woodpecker. Here's the next one. Lavinia frowned even further. It was Japanese soldier's garb, with a red and black color scheme, contrasting Bedivere's outfit. Noah whistled. This looked similar to Oda Nobunaga's outfit. Well, the servant that he got the outfit from did have Oda in their name. Maybe they were siblings. Damn, this outfit was straight heat. The hat was cool too. Unfortunately, Noah seemed to be the only one of the trio that thought so, as Noah caught Lavinia's rather unsatisfactory gaze. No, yeah, I like this even worse than the other one. Well, maybe he could wear it when he was aura farming with his Incinerate Anthem if Nemo's extra skill wasn't combat-oriented. Okay, last one. Taking out a white dress, both Lavinia and Griselda paused at the beauty and majesty of the outfit. Lavinia looked at it like she won the lottery, while Griselda looked at it as if she lost the world. I want this one. Yeah. Noah flipped the long dress to the front, his body turning rigid. Yo, what the hell, this dress clickbaited me. From the front, the dress while showing the shoulders could be mitigated with Oda Nobukatsu's cape. Noah frowned at the leg exposure. Yeah, no. Noah backtracked. What? Why not? Lavinia's face fell. 'Cause I don't know, looks rather inappropriate for a 9-year-old, don't you think? The rest are trash though. Lavinia complained. That made Noah pause in his tracks. Noah had forgot to consider Lavinia's gender. As a man who strives for gender equality, Noah didn't consider gender when considering who to throw hands with, so he forgot that young girls probably liked cute things. Maybe he could compromise with the tights from Okita Soji's outfit. Ultimately he relented. No reason to fuel animosity between partners. But on one condition. Lavinia nodded. Noah took out Oda Nobukatsu's cape, Okita Soji's tights, and her long gloves that reached to her elbow. You have to wear this as well. Lavinia looked at it with hesitation but ultimately relented. Noah nodded in satisfaction. I also got a new outfit for myself, so how about we go into our own rooms and change then come back? Lavinia nodded, excited to change into her new dress. Griselda also nodded with excitement, but more muted. Entering his room, Noah opened up his inventory. Do you wish to put on outfit Nemo Captain, Stage 3, replacing everything currently on you? Yes. Noah conjured up a mirror. He looked at himself in the mirror and faltered, before a frown marred his face. Why was he wearing heels and blue tights? He swore to God if the extra skill wasn't that good, he would take this off. Observing himself for a few more seconds, Noah had to admit the outfit was slowly growing on him. It was comfortable, like he was born to wear the outfit, and while the tights and heels were a bit unusual, it matched with his outfit. Was he slowly being converted into a fucking femboy? Impossible. Noah exited his room as the first one to finish changing, as he had the feature that allowed for instant equip of his outfit. He could hear some small talk in the other room, but ignored it and made his way to the main church to check out his new extra skill. How does he activate it? Host has to speak out available partitions host wishes to summon. The available partitions are Nemo Bakery, 1 Nemo Engine, 1 Nemo Marines, 24 Nemo Nurse, 1 Nemo Professor, 1. Now what was this system on about? Nemo Bakery, Nemo Marine. Well, he wouldn't figure it out just by thinking about it, he was more of a hands-on type of person. Nemo Marine. In front of Noah, a clone of Noah appeared, wearing a white cute boy's sailor uniform and a white turban with rear pigtails. Nemo Marine reporting in for duty. Nemo Marine excitedly said with a cheery voice, saluting towards Noah, multiple pitches higher than his own voice, but still recognizable. Noah nodded, speaking out like it was instinct. So it was like a shadow clone. At ease, Noah walked around Nemo Marine, who looked confused at Noah's actions. So what are your abilities, Marine? Noah said seriously, fully into his roleplay. Marine raised his hands in excitement. I can clean, handle supplies, maintenance, and various other tasks that need some muscle, Captain. Noah nodded in satisfaction. This skill was pretty good and useful. What is his parameters? Noah inwardly asked. Strength, C+. Endurance, B+. Agility, C. Mana, A. Luck, A. NP. This guy's got better parameters than I do. Are you confident in combat? I'm proficient in using most forms of electronics and weapons systems, and I think I'm pretty decent with a weapon, Captain. Marine excitedly recited his abilities. Noah nodded in satisfaction. With stats that are pretty good, and with better weapon mastery than him, this skill is better than he thought. Worthy of an A-rank extra skill. Perfect, Marine. Noah pulled out Fairy Sword Galadine and handed it to Marine. I'll give you this weapon for now, and be ready for when I call for you. Marine nodded. Thank you, Captain. All hands at ease, Marine. Noah gave a salute. Marine returned with a happy salute back as he dematerialized, Fairy Sword Galadine in hand. Noah watched as he disappeared. This could be good for Aura, all he needed now was a ship. If memory partition meant that it was a specialized clone, Noah could assume the abilities of the rest of his crew. Well, not that he had a ship, so engine would have to be on the backlog for now. Noah turned back to see Lavinia looking at him with surprise. Did she see? Nice outfit. You look nice, Noah commented. He would know. He summoned it. Lavinia blushed. Thank you. You look nice as well. It seemed she didn't. Damn right I do. Look how awesome I look. Noah did a 360, flexing his drip. Lavinia's expression morphed into a glare. Hey, don't look at me like that, you're the who complimented me. Who would I be if I didn't agree? Lavinia deadpanned. Is that so? From behind her, Griselda came out with her new outfit, satisfied with both the comfortability and appearance. Oh, looking nice, Noah complimented. Thank you, I think it's much better than what I was wearing previously. Anything would be better than what you were wearing previously, Noah said with a flat face. Why? Anyways, you look nice also. Noah nodded. Of course I do. I'm an inimitable beauty, don't you know? Noah did another 360. Griselda followed in Lavinia's footsteps, deadpanning. So we ready to head out? Noah nodded. Yeah, so where we headed? Chirkasi. We will head to the church there to get you an ID and then we'll take a teleportation circle straight to Italy. Lavinia and Noah nodded. He could show Lavinia his new sick powers he got from Augusta and his clones later. Excalibur and Graham were probably going to be hidden cause they already had their own variants in DxD and it would be more or less a pain. Maybe unless he found someone who could wield Graham, seeing as he had no reason for to. He had asked the system to see if he could enhance Graham like in Genshin Impact, but it said it couldn't, not expecting any duplicates in Noble Phantasms. If he couldn't use one, why would he need to? He had tried to expel weapons from his inventory but it only materialized in front him, no matter what he did, so that use was gone. Also, thank God for magical worlds, he thought he would have to walk all the way to Italy or take a flight for a second. Then let's head out. Plus, A.N. Short chapter, sorry for that. I got a flight TMR and I need to prepare. I might make a backlog for the weekend or I might not, depends on if I have time. Also, sometimes I don't understand the purpose in hiding systems sometimes. If it's useful to have assistants to get stronger, isn't that good? I know sometimes it isn't, but most of the time they hide golden fingers then complain about not having help. My back hurts so bad I might KMS. Thanks for the support and comments, power stones, and reviews are all appreciated. Plus, 11 comments 0 vote, I'll take a potato chip. And eat it. So why are we walking? Noah offhandedly asked, carrying Lavinia while walking on top of the snow, watching Griselda struggle to move in the snow, mumbling under her breath. I'm never taking a mission with snow ever again. Griselda looked in confusion at Noah when he somehow didn't sink into the snow even when carrying Lavinia, and had half a mind to ask him to carry her too. Using a lightning spell and an acceleration spell simultaneously took too much mana to constantly use, and Griselda didn't know if Noah could keep up. He 100% could. Are we going to walk all the way to Chirkasi like this? Noah drawled, looking back at Griselda, who was wondering if she could smack him on the head. No, we're going to the nearest town then catching a ride to Chirkasi. And how far is that? Noah asked. You just have to go straight for a few kilometers from here. Noah paused. She was going to walk that entire strip. Hell nah, he wasn't. Noah put Lavinia from a princess carry, she insisted, into a piggyback ride, ignoring her cry. Swiftly, Noah picked up Griselda into a princess carry. Griselda was too tall, to his dismay, for him to properly piggyback her. Hey, Griselda tried to resist, but looked at Noah's expression of exasperation and reluctance and paused. Why are you the one looking at me like that? Shouldn't she be the one to look at him like that? It wasn't cause holding her in his arms he could really feel the height difference. Definitely not. Fuck, why the hell was he so short? Noah thought, forgetting he was 9 feet. Shut up, author. My bad, king, why am I the one piggybacked? Lavinia whined. It's cause this woman's too tall, what do you want me to do? Noah countered, sighing. Damn it, Lavinia mumbled. Hey, who taught you how to curse? Noah turned his neck. You did. No I didn't. Haha. Noah looked away, ignoring Griselda's exasperated expression. She had tried to get herself out, but despite Noah's rather petite physical features, he was physically stronger than her. How? At this point she wasn't even going to bother to ask, just deciding that it was because he had the blessing of God or something like that. After all, Noah had said his ability gave him items, not whatever his abilities were. Are you sure that the place is straight ahead? Noah double-checked. Griselda nodded. If this is the path that I took, yes. Okay, I would say to hang on, but I'm just going to walk, so. Walking forward, Griselda looked at him, bewildered. If he was just going to walk, then what was the point in picking her up? Griselda's thoughts fell apart as she saw what could only be teleportation, but somehow not teleportation at the same time. The scenery rapidly changed, not due to speed as there wasn't any motion blur, but as if frames were skipped in a movie. No mana used, no space distorted. It was as if Noah was one with the surroundings, not even registering as there. Haha, didn't know about this, did you? Lavinia bragged. Why are you the one bragging about this? I should be the one to do that. Noah interrupted. And don't think I can't tell that you're sniffing my nape on purpose. That made Lavinia pause. Griselda looked at her with disdain clearly written on her face. Coughing, Lavinia looked away. The three traveled in silence for the rest of the way, which had shortened from taking hours to only taking a matter of minutes. Arriving at the small down, instead of letting down Griselda, Noah looked down at her. I think this is faster than whatever method of transportation you're thinking of, so just tell me where to go. Quote. I think I need a map and a compass. Then go get one. Griselda pointed at where Noah was holding her with an incredulous expression. Noah let down Griselda and Lavinia, and walked up to a decently populated street, chose a kind-looking middle-aged woman and started a conversation. Excuse me, do you know where I could find a map to Chirkasi? Noah looked at her, exhibiting his natural Shota abilities, earning a warm smile from the woman. Oh sweetie, you're so adorable. She reached out to pinch Noah's cheeks. Inwardly, Noah was thinking, I can't punch everyone that gets on my nerves. I can't punch everyone that gets on my nerves. I can't punch everyone that gets on my nerves. He was the one who put himself into such a position in the first place, so it wouldn't be Sigma of him to be angry at his own actions. I think you can find a map at old Mikula's store at the end of the street down there, she pointed out down the main street, looking back to Noah. Are you traveling with your sisters? Sisters. More like I'm their guardian. Noah nodded. Thank you for your help, sister. Middle-aged woman always liked to be called young, he had read it in a manga. Disclaimer. Don't reference manga for real-life situations. It only worked because no matter what people say about the inside personality being key to good relationships, society would rather favor the prettier child regarding first impressions, and Noah was top tier even among children, possibly even having chance at winning Miss Universe ahem. Mr. Universe. No problem sweetie. Here, take a treat. The woman handed Noah 3 pampushkas from her basket. You can share it with your sisters, the woman whispered, winking at Noah. Thank you, sister. Noah smiled brightly. No problem, bye sweetie, she waved at Noah as he walked back to Lavinia and Griselda, and he waved back with a smile. Quote. Were you a con artist at some point in your life? Griselda asked, watching Noah's acting from start to finish. Noah shrugged. I'm beautiful, who would I be if I didn't use it? Noah ignored her question. He was a citizen who followed all the laws. Thank you very much. Noah handed Lavinia a pampushka. Also, since you insulted me, your share is mine. Griselda's expression fell. Smelling the tantalizing piece of bread, Griselda quickly gave in. I want to sincerely apologize. It truly does feel good to be the one in charge. Noah chortled, handing her a piece of bread. Now he had to talk to 7 more people. Lavinia, watch carefully. What I just showed was an example on how to take advantage of whatever you got. Finishing off his bread, Noah walked up to different people, asking the same question of where the map store was, and occasionally asked the price and gave a pitiful expression, saying that he lost his money and was lost with his sisters. Walking back to Lavinia and Griselda, Lavinia had an expression as if she had gleaned a revelation, while Griselda had the exact opposite, looking as if she made a mistake. Someone this dirty was blessed by God. See, money and snacks. Noah held out his hands, showing his haul. He had already finished talking to 10 people, but he had somehow completed his weekly quest as well when a relatively wealthy woman and donated a decent amount of money, bringing up his free pull count up by 3. Here you go. Noah handed half the sweets to Lavinia and gave the rest to Griselda, who looked at it in contemplation. Should she really take this sweet originating from sinful behavior? Glancing at Lavinia who was ravenously eating it, she gulped before ultimately relenting. It wasn't as if Noah had lied. She popped a piece of candy in her mouth, melting in bliss. With her minimal salary and the Vatican being rather thrifty with their salaries, getting to eat sweets like this was rare. Teach me your ways, Noah. Lavinia asked, munching on her snacks. Haha, of course, partner. When we get to Italy and the Vatican gives us jack shit we can just do this. Noah started explaining. First things first, you should prioritize women. Griselda looked at Noah in disdain. Wait, I'm not being sexist here. It's just that the risk factor is low and the return is high when cute people ask women. Noah explained, hands raised to placate Griselda. With men there was always an underlying threat and the chances of getting nothing were much higher. He had read a study saw on YouTube that women were more empathetic than men or something like that. However, any video he watched while he was eating or taking a shit barely stayed in his mind so he could be mistaken. So it's low risk, high return. What more can I ask for? Noah shrugged. Lavinia nodded in understanding. Griselda listened, feeling like even she was learning something too, even if the chances of her using it was slim. With minimal experience with socializing with the general public, Noah's knowledge of general social features and their associated type might be useful in the future. But I have to warn you. A crucial rule for this other than that you have to be cute is that you have to be shorter by a considerable amount to the person you're scam asking for. Noah explained. It pained him to admit the fact that he was short, but it was undeniably useful. That made Griselda pause. Griselda had recently started growing, so Noah's advice would unfortunately wait. Why was she feeling disappointed? Griselda inwardly recited Bible verses. Hanging out with Noah was somehow corrupting her. But if he was someone who could become a saint, wouldn't it be fine to emulate him? As Griselda was spiraling into dangerous thoughts, Noah continued his explanation. Also, no matter what, you have to call the woman sister or an equivalent. Don't call her aunt or grandma unless it's extremely obvious. Calling a grandma sister might result in the opposite effect and sounds like you're complimenting them with a purpose. It has to feel all natural, you feel me? Lavinia nodded, inwardly writing down his advice. Then after that, Noah kept explaining, and finished his impromptu lecture as they arrived at the map shop, or rather a general store. Buying a map and a compass, Noah looked at it in confusion before handing it to Griselda. As a captain with high intelligence trust, it would be better to leave the navigation to the more experienced. However, Griselda looked at the map, lost. How did maps work again? Griselda was rather out of touch regarding anything other than fighting and eating since a young age, and she had only gotten to where Noah was because the clergy at St. Michael's Cathedral had gave Griselda a semi-consumable magic item that pointed toward the stray devil, and pointed back to the cathedral when she killed it and absorbed its mana. Unfortunately, Noah had eviscerated it instead and turned it into a carpet of the refurbished abandoned church. Following the church's arranged transportation, making her way there wasn't difficult, but making her way back. Griselda looked at the map which was written in Ukrainian. Her equipment with a built-in translation spell allowed her to communicate with Noah and Lavinia, not that Noah needed it but she couldn't read foreign languages with it. I think I remember a scene where Zenobia and Asia studied Japanese, which wouldn't be needed if the translation spell could translate written language as well. Why are you looking at the map like an idiot? Noah asked. Wasn't she the one who asked for a map? Griselda paused. She silently handed it back to Noah. What the fuck? Are you serious? Griselda looked away abashed, a blush creeping up her face. Noah sighed. He had wasted all that money just for this woman to not even know how to read a map. You know how to read a map? Noah looked at Lavinia. She shook her head. She was 9 and barely even got an education. When would she have the opportunity to learn how to read a map? Noah sighed once more. Wait. Available partitions. The available partitions are Nemo Bakery, 1 Nemo Engine, 1 Nemo Marines, 24 Nemo Nurse, 1 Nemo Professor, 1. If Nemo Professor had Professor in their name, they had to be smarter than him, right? Hey, I think I know someone who can read the map. Both Griselda and Lavinia looked at Noah in confusion. Follow me. The trio went out of the town to a place with no one around. Don't be surprised, but I know a guy. How? Are you able to summon as well? Like a familiar? Griselda asked. With Noah pulling out random abilities out of his ass, it wouldn't be surprising. Well, it should have been, but Griselda was gradually getting used to it. Well, something like that. Obviously, while Noah could just call Nemo Professor, as a captain, it would only be right to fit the role the best he could. Before I show you this, you two will henceforth call me Captain for the duration of my summon. Lavinia looked confused. Captain, like a ship captain. Similarly, Griselda seemed puzzled. Summoning a familiar and he wants them to call him Captain. Was Noah perhaps more special than she thought? But the two agreed nonetheless, albeit with hesitation. All hands on deck. Nemo Professor. In front of Noah, a clone of Noah appeared, wearing a dark green sailor dress and a green beret with glasses. Nemo Professor reporting for duty. Unlike Marine's enthusiastic demeanor, Professor was more calm and subdued in personality. At ease. Professor, do you know how to read a map? That made Professor pause. Captain didn't know how to read a map. Well, it wasn't her issue, and if it made Captain call on her, all the better. Yeah, rather wouldn't I be disqualified as a professor if I didn't know? She murmured at the end. Noah nodded in satisfaction. He didn't really understand how his clones or crewmates were smarter and stronger than him, but as long as it was useful, who cared? Then Professor, I have a task for you. Could you show us the direct path to Chirkasi without minding the terrain? Noah handed Professor the map and compass. Almost instantly, Professor nodded as she pointed in a direction. Noah didn't know how she did that without even knowing where she even was, but who cared? Nice. You're dis. Quote. Wait. Professor interrupted. Just in case you accidentally veer off course, it would be good for me to stay materialized. Noah paused and thought before nodding. I guess so. Good advice, Professor. How will I carry 3 people though? Professor realized that there were people other than Noah. She looked at them in confusion, while the two looked at Professor in surprise. Noah, is that a clone of yourself? Lavinia asked, admiring Professor's cute outfit. As Professor had the same face and physique as Noah, it was basically the same as seeing Noah in girls' wear. Griselda looked at the adorable Professor in appreciation. This is my crewmate, Professor. Nice to meet you, Captain's friends, I'm the one designated for planning, analysis, and research. You can just call me Professor. The other two introduced themselves as well. Carrying 3 people, Professor mumbled. She wanted to be princess carried by her captain, but how to convince Noah? After all, Captain's favor was the best. As a memory partition of Nemo and not Noah, Professor and the rest of the crew knew that while Noah did look like Captain Nemo, he was a different entity to Captain Nemo, along with a different personality and all. However, despite this, all 28 Nemo partitions had a sort of affection to Noah different from Captain Nemo. Instead of seeing Noah as their captain themselves, it was more of a captain creator. Furthermore, they saw Noah's POV like watching a TV screen while in Noah's mindscape, so naturally all the Nemo partitions knew about Noah's rather special personality, but they still followed him nonetheless. Professor and the rest were rather jealous when one of the Marines was summoned and even given a present by Noah, and she wanted something to one-up Marine. A princess carry was something she could hold over the rest for ages. But how to be princess carried? Noah himself had to walk with nothing behind him in order to use furthest Earth, so creating a sled was off the table, and that would only result in Professor also riding the sled. All 28 Nemo partitions had access to Noah's status screen, not in the sense of being able to personally access anything, but rather just knowing Noah's abilities for better synergy. Captain, could you give me permission to use Merlin's magecraft? Professor whispered. Knowing Noah's circumstances and the high-profile nature of Merlin's illusion magecraft, better to keep it quiet. I can do that, Noah whispered back. Yes, but I will get a weaker variant of the skill. Professor explained. Does that drain my own mana? No, Noah blinked. Wow, how is this skill only a rank? Professor inwardly smiled, reading Noah's expression. System, why didn't you tell me? Host didn't ask. Oh you bitch, how do I do that? Think. I give permission for Nemo variant to use my skill, insert skill. Warning, when sharing skills or noble phantasms, host will not be able to use it during the duration of the skill or object lending. Also, the scale of the skill will be limited to 2 letters lower than the rank of the skill. Who cared about that limitation? He probably wasn't going to use a majority of his skills anyway. I give permission for Nemo Professor to have access to my extra skill, Merlin's knowledge of illusion magecraft. Noah and Professor glowed for a second, as Noah could feel something leaving his body and Professor smiled. She could feel Captain inside her. Whoa, pause. She took out a piece of paper before creating a wooden box backpack big enough to fit 2 people. Isn't this too small for 3 people, Professor? Sorry Captain, I have too little mana to make anything bigger. Well, there was nothing he could do about that. Merlin's magecraft was a mana drainer no matter what he did, which was why he didn't use it. It seemed that even if the scale was lowered, it took a decent amount of mana. It's fine. Since you're the navigator, is it fine if I carry you, Professor? Professor nodded. All according to plan. Plus, the flight's like 16 hours long and I still have like 2 hours before I leave for the airport, so that's like an entire day with no chapter, so I quickly wrote this one instead of working on my final project for my design class. I'm the type who only sleeps on the plane. Also, since this FIC is wiki intensive, not writing without a reference is just asking me to fuck myself over. I know I said I didn't like summons, but come on. Nemo without his crew is just a Shota. Make an exception here. Also, is this self-cessed? Probably, but it's more or less wanting Noah's attention rather than loving him. Am I mentally insane from not sleeping? Hell yeah. Professor's gender isn't known, but the clothing's super feminine. Also, memory partition is a rank because it isn't something groundbreaking. It's good, yeah, but without a ship, skills, or weapons, it's pretty useless. A mid-end game skill if you would. Thanks for all the support and I would appreciate comments, power stones, and reviews. CYA in a day and a half. 19 comments 0 vote. Yorokob, Shonen. Thanks for the assistance, Professor. Arriving at Chirkasi, Noah let down Lavinia and Griselda, saluting Professor. No problem, Captain. Professor saluted back as she dematerialized. So what are we going to do now? Or do we need another map? Noah teased Griselda. Griselda ignored his jab. I know the way to St. Michael's Cathedral. It's one of the Eastern Orthodox's biggest churches in Ukraine. She explained. Then we go immediately to the Vatican, right? Griselda shook her head. I have to report to the clergy at the church first, get authorization to use the teleportation circle, and before that we have to get you two ids. Noah and Lavinia nodded. Then how long is that going to take? Noah asked, already planning on trying to scam as many people as possible before he left the city. Maybe he could even get an achievement from it. Before that, he would need to pull right now just in case there were any enemies nearby. He had 3 free pulls from talking to people and earning money by scam talking to people. He inwardly started praying to a different servant, one of his goats, Arash. It could take around 24 hours. Griselda guessed. She also had to convince the higher-ups to somehow take Noah in and not force him to stay when they saw his holy energy, unless Noah himself could overpower the entirety of the Vatican. Those chances to her were extremely slim, with people like her swordsmanship instructor Cardinal Deacon Ewald Cristaldi, current wielder of Excalibur Transparency and Excalibur Rapidly, and Cardinal Priest and the one closest to Roland as a Durandal wielder, Vasco Strada. Each could kill high-class devils and even ultimate-class beings, with Cardinal Priest Vasco Strada being able to corner Kokabeel during the Second World War. This wasn't even considering Dulio Gesualdo, who while around the same age as Noah, was the wielder of the second strongest Longinus, Zenith Tempest, and while still in training due to his age, he was considered a future powerhouse by a majority of the Vatican's higher-ups. Noah on the other hand, didn't really care. Not because he was stronger than them, but it was because he had skills and noble phantasms that could probably defeat them. Unfortunately Noah, who was dependent on such skills, neglected his physical training, confident in escaping no matter who the enemy was due to his furthest earth skill, allowing for perfect movement. Noah's crucial weakness was his lack of reaction time, vulnerable against enemies that could potentially defeat him before he had the opportunity to even use his skills. Noah, originating from modern society and more of a shut-in than most, was rather against pain, as he disliked it, and it was a rather normal thing considering his origins. His lack of reaction when murdering Glenda stemmed from the detachment Noah had from this so-called fictional world, as it felt too apart from his own, with inhumane people all around, and the existence of a system was a constant reminder that everything could be fake. However, even with this thinking, his disdain for pain led him to unconsciously avoid situations where he could get injured, preferring to fight from a distance, where a majority of his skills could be used effectively, and due to his gacha system constantly adding more abilities, it made it hard to specialize on one specific ability, inadvertently making Noah someone like Counter Guardian Emiya, someone who couldn't defeat someone who had honed their craft to the pinnacle. A modern human's thinking like Noah's in terms of battle was one-dimensional, but due to the sheer strength of his abilities, Noah's strength was bloated in one direction, being able to defeat much weaker enemies like Glenda and the Stray Devils solely due to his skills, not his innate combat abilities. Pull. Personal skill instinct A rank greater than A+++ rank due to protection of the faith. However, Noah was a lucky bastard. Holy shit. Noah looked at his newest pull. If he remembered correctly, Artoria had that skill, allowing her to predict attack trajectory, and in her case it even allowed her to see into the future to some extent. Let's fucking go. With his current abilities, he felt that while his attack power was through the fucking roof, he was basically a glass cannon, but now. Why wear armor if you aren't planning on getting hit? That's all the skills he needed at this point. Arash, you are truly my goat. However, since he still had 2 pulls remaining, why not continue? Pull. Craft Essence Splatter Rainbow. Into the inventory it went. Because it was a craft essence, it was probably an object. Pull. Stat points large +10 luck. That was pretty good. Now his luck should be pretty high, seeing as he started off with 80 points in luck in the first place. All his physical stats are so low but his luck is high. Well, nothing he could particularly do about that. At least he got instinct. Then where do we meet? I don't really want to wait 24 hours to do absolutely nothing but wait. Noah said. Well, we actually need pictures of you two for the ID, but after that yeah you guys can explore the city. Griselda responded, leading them to the nearby church. There's cameras in 1993. Noah asked, with both Lavinia and Griselda looking at him in confusion. Quote. Are you joking? Lavinia slowly asked. Noah was going to be 100% honest. Any time before 2010 was a mystery for him. If one asked him when colored TV was a thing, he would ask back since when was there black and white. Yeah, Noah nodded. No reason for the two girls to be aware of his underlying genius. He was acting the fool if you know you know. Quote. Wait, didn't you ask what year it was a few days ago? Lavinia thought back. Were you hiding under a rock or something? Griselda looked at Noah in suspicion. While it would make sense to not remember the day, and maybe even what month if it was early or late in the month, but year. It wasn't even near the end of the year. Noah, who had zero qualms about bullshitting his way out of anything, didn't bother telling the truth. After all, what use was it to know that he came from the future? Well, was it really the future if it was a future in a parallel universe? I was cultivating in seclusion. Griselda looked at him like she was looking at an idiot. How would someone farming by themselves forget what year it was? Quote. How long? It seemed Lavinia didn't really believe him either. Very long. But Noah didn't falter in the slightest. He was as steadfast as Mount High. Griselda and Lavinia gave up. As Griselda led them to the church, Noah looked around the city. As a full-blown American, who never bothered to leave his own home, he could say that this type of architecture was very unfamiliar. Who knew his first time leaving the country would be to a different universe, where perverts ran rampant and boobs had an anti-gravity effect. Arriving at St. Michael's Cathedral, instead of entering through the main entrance, Noah and Lavinia followed Griselda through a side door. Walking through the door, a clergyman who seemed to be on break looked at Griselda in confusion. Sister Griselda, what happened with the stray devil? We hadn't gotten a signal from the magic compass yet. Did the stray devil relocate before you arrived? As the biggest church in Ukraine, St. Michael's Cathedral was the head regional headquarters, and as a headquarters, they naturally had magic to detect any spells targeted towards them, and Griselda's magic compass naturally had a tracking spell placed on it towards the headquarters. Well, that's 'cause I didn't kill it. So it escaped. Griselda shook her head. No, this kid here killed it before I arrived. Griselda gestured towards Noah, who looked at the clergyman. Yorokob, Shonen. Noah spread his hands out with a poor impression of a deeper voice. Naturally this wasn't a very good first impression. Quote. This child. The clergyman looked at Noah with concern. So you got kids in your basement? Griselda slapped her hand across Noah's mouth. Quote. Father Byrak, this child may be a little special in the head. I hope he hasn't offended you. Byrak looked at Griselda and Noah with amusement. As someone who was around 4 times as older than Griselda, he looked at her like a grandchild, and likewise, saw Noah the same. He knew children could be a bit whimsical. Griselda was about to continue, but she felt a wet sensation on her hand, and she immediately recoiled, her hand whipping back. You brat. You covered my mouth first. That's cause. Griselda trailed off before sighing. Can't you at least show some basic respect? You heard her, Lavinia, show some basic respect. Noah nudged to Lavinia next to him, who had been watching the interaction with a faint amusement. Naturally seeing Noah as someone rather special, but reliable, leaving negotiations to Noah would be much better than herself. Noah was also someone who liked taking in all possible opinions before making a decision. Not because he was kind, but because if the decision is shit he could blame everyone else but himself. He was just like that. Well, not that Noah would do that in this case, cause doing that shit to a 9-year-old was just stupid and petty. He wasn't ageist or something like that, but he believed that an adult should at least have some accountability when taking care of a child, even if the adult was also 9 years old. Damn that system. Quote. Me. Lavinia looked at Noah in dismay. Noah nodded. Yeah, she's taking to both of us. Weren't we the winter duet? Why am I the only one talking? She was regretting leaving negotiations to Noah. I wasn't talking to Lavinia, you rascal. Griselda glared at Noah, who hid behind Lavinia. A chuckle from Byrak cut into the conversation. It's nice to see children acting like children. Byrak mused. While he hadn't known Sister Griselda for long, seeing as she was only sent here for one mission instead of being stationed here like some exorcists, his conversations with Griselda were professional. While Griselda seemed mature, Byrak with his experience knew that Griselda only knew how to act mature and be mature, and while he understood that while the fake could one day be real, Griselda didn't have that experience. How could one truly be mature if they were never immature? Children should act like children, and it seemed with this child Griselda brought in, could she truly experience childhood. No ulterior motives, no impossible goal to strive for, Just living in the moment. Father Byrak, I sincerely apologize for Noah's actions. So the child's name is Noah, Byrak interrupted. Yeah, the name's Noah and I'm going to be Hokage, believe it. Was the child okay? Was today's youth so advanced that the old ones couldn't even understand what they were saying? Maybe he should take the time to talk with today's youth more if this was the new norm. Father Byrak, it isn't your fault that you don't understand him, I don't understand him either. Griselda explained, looking at Byrak's lost expression. Ah, I see. So this child is the one that killed the stray devil. Griselda nodded, inwardly relieved that the conversation was finally getting back on track. Well, I may not have much experience in killing stray devils, it's hard to believe that someone so young could defeat a stray devil without as much as a scratch. If Sister Griselda had witnessed it, it would have been fine, but, you said that the boy killed it before you arrived, is that correct? Yes. Griselda looked at Noah. Now that she thought about it, while Griselda had witnessed Noah's movement abilities, she hadn't witnessed Noah's combat abilities. Why had she even believed Noah? Was it the confidence in which he said it? So you want me to show you how I did it? Byrak shook his head. I understand that showing one's abilities is in some way a breach of privacy. I would be satisfied if you had any piece of evidence that you killed the stray devil. Noah froze. Damn, maybe he shouldn't have integrated that devil into the renovated church. Well, Noah had the same feeling he had with Griselda with the Byrak guy, so his protection of the faith probably saw that this Byrak guy was trustworthy. He didn't know how to explain it. It was like a feeling of underlying trust, like they had been comrades. But the real question was what to showcase. While he could just manifest his ice abilities and call it a day, looking at Augusta's reaction when he used his skill, it seemed to be working on a concept that didn't exist in this world. He should probably just use an ability that was from high school DxD. The sacred gear that he swiped from the witch Augusta, Incinerate Anthem. It could also explain why there was no evidence of killing the stray devil. Can I get a few minutes of contemplation? Noah asked. Is there no evidence? Byrak asked. The silence was rather telling. Byrak looked apologetic. My apologies. While I would like to just believe you, a majority of the people in the Vatican probably wouldn't, and a report needs to be written. Yeah, so I need some time to decide. Byrak nodded in understanding before leaving the room. Please knock on the door if you need my assistance, child and company. As Byrak left the room, Noah looked at Griselda. Just making sure, but Lavinia can also just visit the Vatican, right? Griselda paused. I don't actually know. While I believe entering is fine if she's associated with you, getting benefits without any visible abilities would be difficult. Noah nodded in understanding. While Griselda probably brought him from the protection of the faith skill, he also needed the ability to be by himself and not get chained to the Vatican cause that would be a pain in the ass. If someone's wondering why he just doesn't dip, that was because there was probably some plot reason that the author couldn't think up yet. However, Noah knew that the church was rather shitty, with stuff like the Holy Sword Project occurring, and who would he be if he didn't save the lot? While his life here didn't really feel real, saving children and people who didn't deserve it was something he wanted to do at least once in his life. Lavinia didn't count. He met her coincidentally but decided to protect her nonetheless. If he was sent here with a golden finger, why not spend his time changing what he wants to change? Maybe he could get an honorary high ranking and kill that guy Valpierre Galilei. But here's the thing, the Holy Sword Project was probably authorized by a higher being than that. While Noah knew that angels didn't really have much to do with the church until later in the plot, if an angel really approved that shit he would be surprised if they didn't fall. So he would do this under the assumption that there was a higher guy who approved Valper's bullshittery. Hence, his plan was to stop it like a true hero of justice tentative. Even though Noah was someone who didn't really care much for the plot, he wanted to be one of those characters who at the start of the story was like stated offhandedly as super strong, and considered the strongest human. Wouldn't that be sick as fuck? If he had to be Pope to do that, then there was nothing stopping the A-train. Well, that was for future him to worry about. For now, getting into the Vatican for some benefits was key. If his future self decided to save the children from getting experimented on, then that was that. Anything after that was fair game. Wait, was the experiment even happening right now? His sense of time was rather skewed. Well, he could at least kill Valpierre Galilei, right? Maybe he should just join the church and retire early. After all, if he was strong enough, who could force him to do anything? The church was probably a better place for Lavinia to train to be stronger too. Why did he say he didn't want to join the church again? Lavinia. Noah had been thinking for a while, but if Lavinia had to show her doll as long as it was for Noah, she would. You wanna just join the church with me? Both Lavinia and Griselda looked at Noah with confusion. Noah was the last person any of them expected to join the church. Don't look at me like that. Griselda, if we joined the church to be exorcists, Lavinia can get training right. Griselda nodded, realizing why Noah was asking. She looked at the kid in a new light. Two don't need training. If you don't want to join Noah, then. Wait, Noah interrupted Lavinia. I was thinking, while I'm strong, and I'm fine with being the winter duet, I still want you to get an education. I was thinking that I needed to up my game too. So you're also planning to join? Griselda asked. Well, I wouldn't have asked if I wasn't. But I want something from you. What? Could you keep everything about the trip here a secret? While Noah told Griselda about his abilities, that was because of the gut feeling originating from protection of the faith, having an effect similar to how fairy eyes could see the truth. Noah speculated that protection of the faith could see pure and just faith. This didn't account about Griselda's actions, but rather told him that she was trustworthy. Okay, Griselda didn't press further. Getting Noah into the Vatican was more important. Thank you. That made Griselda blink. This might have been the first time she heard a thank you from Noah. Noah looked at Lavinia with an uncharacteristic serious expression on his face. So, will you join the church with me? I'll go wherever you go, Noah. Lavinia nodded, with a small blush on her face. That kind of sounded like a proposal. Good. Since one of the most important things in the social world is respect, and respect is born from strength, Lavinia, it would be better for you to reveal that. If the church knew that Lavinia had a sacred gear, they would probably both invest and not pressure her into doing something she doesn't explicitly want to do. But if they did, well, Noah had a wide range of lethal abilities to choose from. That, Griselda asked. When she first interacted with Lavinia at the renovated church, there was an underlying feeling of danger. Was that? Lavinia consented. Okay, Griselda. Yeah. Are you decently experienced with sacred gears? To some extent. Are you saying that Lavinia has a sacred gear? Griselda asked. Sacred gears, or God's artifacts, were well known at the Vatican, and some exorcists were wielders of such weapons, with the most notable being Dulio Gesualdo, the wielder of Zenith Tempest, who was currently still in training. Yeah, but we don't know what sacred gear she has. I see. While I don't know all of them, I know most of the previously identified ones. Noah nodded towards Lavinia, who manifested a towering doll made of ice. Griselda blinked in surprise. An independent avatar-type sacred gear made of ice. A Longinus. Now it was Noah's turn to blink in surprise. A Longinus. That doll was a Longinus. Noah had just thought it was just a stronger sacred gear. If I'm not mistaken, it's the 11th Longinus, absolute demise. Longinus. Lavinia asked in confusion. Griselda quickly explained, and Lavinia looked at the doll in wonder. The doll who had been following her for a majority of her life was one of the strongest sacred gears. Lavinia dematerialized the doll. Well, you're probably going to get some respect for that, Noah mused. Some. She would probably get a lot more than just some. Griselda joked. Lavinia nodded. That was good. She probably wouldn't get forced into anything. So, Noah, I know you said to keep your abilities a secret, then what are you going to show? Because while your holy aura might allow you to wield holy swords, that isn't much compared to Lavinia. Griselda had only seen the abilities of creating clothes out of nowhere, a brazier out of nowhere, perfect movement, and manifesting clones. None other than the movement could have any battle applications. Oh, I have a sacred gear too. What? Both Lavinia and Griselda looked at him with surprise. Why didn't you tell me when I showed you mine? Lavinia looked down. Did he not trust her? Wait, I got it adjusted earlier today while I went hunting. Noah quickly explained how another witch appeared, so he started fighting her. Then all of a sudden her sacred gear just left the witch's body and entered his. Quote. Griselda was speechless. In the span of when he was hunting he got into a fight and left with a sacred gear. Quote. From the descriptions, I believe that it's the independent avatar type Longinus Incinerate Anthem, but could you show it so we can make sure? Sure. While Noah had played around with the purple flames, he hadn't actually manifested his sacred gear yet, so he was also in the dark. In the magically largened room, a purple flame appeared in the air, before coalescing into a bright purple cross, but as if it was a bit lonely, a buxom woman with 4 large horns, and a wolf tail and ears, and a large grail made of flames above her materialized. If Noah played Fate Grand Order Arcade, he would recognize her as the Whore of Babylon. But he didn't. The cross slowly rose, before stabbing itself into the woman's chest diagonally, and the woman made of flame rose her arms and hugged the cross, staying in that pose. While the pose should have looked tragic and graphic, it looked rather sensual. Griselda looked at it in both surprise and awe. While the cross was how Incinerate Anthem looked, was that a subspecies? Quote. Is that really Incinerate Anthem? Plus, I am so sorry for not updating broskies, the flight was shitty, and my computer took an entire day to catch up on its drivers, then I started playing Z's. The grammar's probably more ass because I wanted this chapter out quickly. Also, one day has lasted 4 goddamn chapters. I actually haven't seen much fanfics on the church in DxD, but if you have seen them please recommend me some. 21 comments 0 vote. What's a euro? Quote. Is that really Incinerate Anthem? Noah shrugged. Maybe it's a subspecies. Griselda looked at the purple cross and the purple flames and had to admit it did look very similar to the descriptions of Incinerate Anthem. Well, then is this what you're going to show to the Vatican? Noah nodded. There were 3 reasons that he could think of. First, using abilities that were originally from this world would be much more sensible and prevented anything annoying from happening, similar to Augusta's reaction toward his skill, Wind of Niflheim. The second was that because this weapon originated from this world, he didn't have access to its full potential, like he did for all of his abilities that he obtained from the Gacha. So training in it and possibly being able to use its balance breaker would be a good thing, seeing as the system placed the sacred gear at A+++ rank. The third, well, it looked cool. Griselda nodded. Even without Noah's other abilities, just having a Longinus and furthermore, a holy relic could make him a very important piece to the Vatican. Well, Father Byrak should believe you if you show Incinerate Anthem, seeing as it would also make sense if there wasn't any evidence. After getting a nod from both Noah and Lavinia, Griselda knocked on the door and showed Byrak in. Are you ready? Noah nodded, opening his hand and revealing a purple flame. Sacred gear. I verified it as the Longinus Incinerate Anthem, Griselda added on. Quote. I see. It would make sense then that there would be no evidence, Byrak mused, surprised, who knew that all of a sudden he would meet one of the wielders of a holy relic. And on someone so young. Are you planning on inducting him as an exorcist? Byrak asked Griselda, who nodded back. Yes, we got consent from both Noah and Lavinia. Lavinia, was that the name of the girl next to Noah? While Byrak could understand inducting Noah based off the holy relic alone, without verifying talent it would be hard for Lavinia to. Lavinia showed off her own sacred gear, as a doll made of ice materialized behind her. Quote. Another sacred gear. Quote. Yes, I believe that it's the Longinus Absolute Demise. Another Longinus. What are the chances? 13 in the whole world, then one day wielders of 2 of them show up at his church. 2C. Then it would be fine to also induct the child as a prospective exorcist, Byrak hummed. Do you want a recommendation? While I may not be a fighter, I do have some influence in the church. Griselda paused, before shaking her head. No need. However, thank you for the consideration. With Noah's unpredictability, it would be better for Father Byrak to not lose his reputation from Noah's special actions. So are you heading to the Vatican with the 2 children now? After explaining that Noah and Lavinia didn't have any IDs, Byrak nodded in understanding and they quickly went through the process of taking pictures and putting in their personal information. Plus, thank you for the information, it should take around an hour or 2 to send it over to the official offices. Thank you for the assistance. Griselda looked at Noah and Lavinia who were playing a short game of mind chess. However, they weren't very experienced with chess and too stupid to properly remember chess locations, so the two were just randomly saying chess positions. Checkmate. What? I thought your pieces were nowhere near mine. Never mind then, I might have been tripping. Checkmate. Huh, how? Quote. What's checkmate again? Griselda sighed, looking at the two. I have to start writing on my report, so you two can just wait or explore the city for a few hours. The two stopped playing. Also, couldn't you just create chess pieces? Griselda asked, referencing to Absolute Demise's domain over ice, inadvertently targeting Noah's Wind of Niflheim as well. The two froze. Damn, why didn't I think of that? Wait, she wasn't talking about me. Yeah, Lavinia, you heard her. Noah drawled towards Lavinia. She looked at him in betrayal, about to ask why he didn't do it either, but realizing that he didn't reveal his abilities regarding ice, there wasn't anything she could do about it. Lavinia looked at Noah's smug face, as if he could read her mind. Quote. She could do nothing but glare back. Then me and Lavinia will just explore the town then, Noah said, standing up and stretching. Kya-ok. The two girls looked at him in exasperation. Lavinia followed, stretching in a very demure way. Got a timer or anything like that? No, feel free to explore all you want, just come back before sundown. As it was probably going to be a while before they ever returned, better for them to explore their home country for a while. Noah nodded. Roger that. Lavinia, you can finally apply all the things I taught you. Lavinia nodded, excited to finally try and ask kindly for some assistance. Also, while one may think that dressing to invoke pity works, the core essence of asking for help is looks, and we both have a shit ton of that stat. Okay, then let's drop tilted. Lavinia decided to just ignore Noah whenever he said random stuff like that. Scammed 10 people off their money. You have obtained the achievement Money Beggar, false +1 free pull. Scammed 100 people off their money. You have obtained the achievement Money Beggar, true +1 free pull. You have left a lasting impression on 10 people. You have obtained the achievement Heavenly Idol Starter, +1 free pull. You have left a lasting impression on 100 people. You have obtained the achievement Heavenly Idol Trainee, +1 free pull. You have changed the mindset of Lavinia Rennie. You have obtained the achievement Corruptor Lavinia Rennie, +1 free pull. After scamming the 100th person and getting the achievement for that one, Noah stopped. There was no way he was scamming 1,000 people in one day. Maybe it was because he targeted middle-aged couples to invoke pity that he reached the achievement faster. And what was that Corruptor achievement? Let's head back, the sun's setting. What? I swear I saw a good target though. Lavinia whined, giving a discreet glance toward an elderly couple with expensive-looking clothing. Maybe he had corrupted Lavinia. Scamming people for too long isn't good. Quote. You're the one saying that. He couldn't say much to that. Well, the sun's setting and we have to start our training arc, so let's just head back. Lavinia reluctantly agreed and the two headed back with noticeably fuller pockets. Plus, quote. So what have you two been doing? Griselda asked Noah and Lavinia, who was counting their money on a nearby couch as the clergy who had experience with magic was preparing a long-distance teleportation spell. Oh, just asking around, you know. Noah offhandedly said. Also, Lavinia, I think you miscounted. I did. Oh, I did. Quote. You do know that you can't just use Ukrainian cash in Rome, right? The two froze. Quote. This wasn't a euro. A euro. Noah paused. Wasn't every country in Europe supposed to be using the same cash? Isn't there a money transfer thing or something? Noah asked. Well, there probably is. As someone who hadn't really bought anything while in Ukraine, she couldn't really say much. Then that's fine. When the long-distance teleportation spell, a deacon came into the room to call for the three. Noah, having not experienced teleportation, was rather excited to experience something that was only a superpower or a concept back in his hometown, while Lavinia had similar thoughts. How does teleportation feel? Noah asked Griselda as they made their way to the room with the magic circle. Griselda shrugged. It doesn't really feel like anything. While I don't remember the concept behind the magic, something like displacing coordinates, to me it feels like you blinked and you find yourself in a different location. Noah nodded in understanding. While he had expected something different like the feeling of going through a tunnel or something like apparition from Harry Potter, this method of teleportation was similar to his furthest Earth skill. It, while not being unique, was undeniably convenient. The three entered the magic circle, and Noah and Lavinia watched with wonder as the circle glowed, and he found himself in a different location. In front of him he found a big-ass man who could put Prime Ronnie Coleman to shame. His arms alone were taller than him. This was the man. What in the steroids? Griselda noticed the man as well before widening her eyes, not expecting someone so high up to greet them. She quickly got on her knees. Why, Your Eminence. While she had only met the man a few times, each time she had the opportunity to meet him, the overwhelming pressure of someone so high up in the supernatural food chain wasn't something to underestimate. Add on his training sessions. And she thought Cardinal Deacon Ewald Cristaldi was harsh. Noah and Lavinia looked confused. This hulk of a man is your cardinal? Haha, is this the children you were talking about? Why yes, Your Eminence. Why so formal? The large man gave a hearty laugh. 2 children have decided to join the church and they have potential to boot. See Cardinal Strada. You can't be serious. That guy is a cardinal. More like the Predator. Like the Predator. Not the Diddy type. Noah mumbled. Griselda wanted nothing else than to shut Noah up. But instead of a negative reaction, Vasco Strada just gave a hearty laugh. While I didn't understand a word you said, it must have been a compliment. Yeah, it was. Noah wasn't really good at handling the perpetually strong-willed types, while Lavinia was looking at Noah like he was crazy. How could he still act like that with a monster of a man right in front of him? So these two must be Noah and Lavinia. Yes, Cardinal Strada. Vasco looked at Noah and Lavinia, but was more intrigued by Noah. Not because he believed that Lavinia was inferior, but the energy that Noah gave out was reminiscent of when he had the opportunity to fight alongside the angels back in World War II. Noah, on the other hand, was looking at Vasco like he was the second coming of Jesus. This guy has to be a living saint if protection of the faith isn't weary of this dude at all. The feeling he got from Vasco was similar to the feeling he had with Griselda, and he believed that the criteria protection of the faith used was pure and just faith, and damn, this guy had a shitload of it. Even if Noah wanted to feel suspicious of the guy, the feeling of kinship was overpowering it to the point where he just gave up. Might as well trust the X-rank skill, since it's probably more accurate than his own opinions. With 2 Longinus finding themselves at the church, the higher-ups were overjoyed when they had first gotten the news from Griselda, and on top of 2 Longinus, one of them was the holy relic, the cross, Incinerate Anthem. Absolute demise wasn't anything to scoff at either. It was just that Incinerate Anthem was more closely related to the church. Some unsavory people wanted to take advantage of them and raise them to be loyal to the church, like they did to Dulio when his sacred gear, Zenith Tempest, was discovered, but when Vasco heard the news he had a gut feeling that the person behind the Holy Cross was going to bring change to the church as a whole. His intuition, trained with over 50 years of fighting, were nothing to scoff at. So using his position as cardinal priest, he was able to be the one hosting the 2 children. But looking at Noah, while he did have an underlying favorability towards the child, Vasco could feel that there was something more to him. First things first, let's have a spar. Excuse me. Plus, another short chapter. I'm actually getting used to writing short chapters, but unfortunately, I have bad news. I'm going to be visiting family for 2 days. My bad, guys. I'm not bringing anything other than my phone, and writing without a wiki to reference is low-key hell, so I'll be taking a break for 2 days. Worry not, I will try to post a chapter when I come back. Also, I realized why Noah's luck was absolute god tier. The skills weren't separated into personal skills and class skills, and most personal skills are low-key broken ASF instead of class skills. So I separated class skills and made them more common and made personal skills rarer. However, for plot progression reasons I do in some cases choose a reward, which was the Nemo outfit and the op ability card, and that was it. Also, as someone who hasn't read the light novel, I might be extrapolating personalities to shit, so if they are a bit out of character, my bad. But understand, people's actions when they are younger are probably different, which makes the wiki not a very good reference regarding personality at all. Which makes writing fanfics in a completely different time zone and an unmentioned part in the story very time wasting. I'm also planning on giving 2 nerfs to the Gacha when he joins the church and making him homies with Dulio. The only reason I'm nerfing the Gacha soon is that having time skips with a Gacha ability is annoying as hell to write, so instead of writing all Gacha abilities during that time, which will take a shitload of time, I just decided to nerf it to make my life easier. LMAO. Thanks for all the comments, reviews, and Power Stones, they fuel my motivation to write. Starting next week when Power Stones reset, I might have Power Stone goals for extra chapters, so look forward to that. 19 comments 0 vote. Excalibur. Or not. Why are we still here? Noah mumbled, finding himself in a large white room. Across from him was the man on holy steroids, Vasco Strada, who had his arms crossed and was smiling with a fat jolly smile on his face. In the stands was Lavinia, who looked nervous, and Griselda, who was in equal parts nervous and exasperated. Sorry, child, I'm not much for conversing, so even if I'm not in my prime anymore, I believe the best way to communicate is through a fight. Vasco bellowed from across the big-ass room. Noah looked at the Holy Hulk across the room with a deadpan. Why all this? What are the rules? No killing blows. Whoa, that meant like, 2 of his more overpowered skills were off the table, if Vasco even gave him the opportunity to even use them. Looking at the man across from him, he could tell that this man was easily stronger than both Glenda and Augusta combined. While Noah had an underlying trust in the man, the pressure that the man was emanating was undeniably dense. Also, no killing blows meant that painful blows were still very much a thing. Noah watched as Vasco pulled out a weapon from a dimensional opening in the air, revealing a large blue sword, with gold along the blade. While it might have looked large if Noah had held it, in Vasco's hands, it looked no bigger than a toy sword. Whoa, isn't that fucking Durandal? Noah recognized the sword from the anime, so this person was probably the wielder of Durandal before Xenovia. Brother, why are you using Durandal, the blade of Roland, one of the 12 paladins of Charlemagne, on a kid you just met? What happened to no killing blows? However, Vasco, with his near-inhuman intuition honed from countless battles and experiences, felt that Noah had much more to show than just Incinerate Anthem, even if the sacred gear itself was a formidable weapon. Griselda froze as Durandal was released from its cage. Why was Cardinal Strada using it on a 9-year-old? She knew that Noah was hiding much more power than she ever witnessed, but even she thought it was overkill. While Noah was undeniably inexperienced with the blade, and he never claimed to be experienced with the blade, it felt weird to battle Vasco without one of his own. Since Excalibur was technically destroyed in the world of DxD, revealing it probably wouldn't cause any issues. While Excalibur Proto was considered a holy sword, the definition of holy in the Nasuverse was undeniably different compared to the definition of holy in the world of DxD. Excalibur, the sword of promised victory, was in essence a sword to destroy any evil that could destroy the planet, with Arthur Pendragon having used it to cleave Inki's floods, and to destroy the beast summoned by Manaka Saju. Again, evil is a clearly subjective word with different meanings in the 2 different universes. The Nasuverse definition of evil that should be cleaved is anything inhumane and against humanity. The evil in DxD is a more broader term, with evil races such as devils and fallen angels, even if they hadn't explicitly done a sin great enough to be considered an evil in Nasuverse standards. Or that's how Noah saw it. Also, he just wanted to flex a cooler blade. However, when Noah summoned it, the blade itself wasn't visible. Excuse me, the sword of Arthur Pendragon prototype has 2 seals. Invisible air, and the 13 restraints of the Round Table. The reason it was first visible to you when you obtained it was that you weren't planning to use it to fight. To Vasco, however, he witnessed the materialization of a blade, but its view was distorted. However, he could make out a faint visage of the blade through the displacement of air, even if inaccurate. What an interesting weapon. Are you ready? No. What? Vasco was confused. 1 second, Noah pulls out a weapon that might have even put him in a little bind until he figured out the dimensions of the weapon, and he just puts it away. As someone who didn't even know the dimensions of the blade, how would he even use invisible air properly? He could swing into empty air thinking the blade was longer. He sighed as he put the blade back in the inventory. Wasn't Graham a thing in this world as well? So it should be fine for me to summon it if it's so different. Noah summoned another blade, which had a shape similar to the Nasuverse's Excalibur, but with the steel blade and a hold hilt. Noah didn't know this since he hadn't actually played through the Lost Belts, but this wasn't the sword that Sigurd wielded during the Lost Belt. It was the gram wielded by Gilgamesh and stored in the Gate of Babylon, and looked more similar to an ordinary sword than the gram that Sigurd in the Lost Belt had wielded. However, despite its differences, it was still an A-rank anti-unit noble phantasm, but with its activation similar to Arondite Overload, not like how Sigurd threw his blade. The sword, while less useful for him as he hadn't bathed in the blood of the evil dragon Fafnir, nor did he have his blood, reducing the compatibility, it was nonetheless an unnaturally durable blade with incomparable sharpness. Noah held out his sword in a pose that showed he had never held a blade, causing a questioning look from both Vasco and Griselda, two people with experience. Well, Noah never said he was good with the sword. Griselda inwardly thought. Vasco observed the sword that Noah held. Gram, while again considered a demonic sword, had different meanings in different universes. However, it still emitted an unsettling feeling. Unfortunately for Noah, holding a sword which was the same height as him didn't do much for his image. "I'm ready," Noah finally yelled. "Okay, then Sister Griselda here will be the referee." Resigned, Griselda held out her hand. "The match will be decided if one decides to concede or can no longer battle." Griselda counted down. Noah tensed up as she counted down, and just before she finished counting, Noah could feel unstoppable death approaching due to his instinct. As a modern human who hadn't actually experienced a life-or-death situation, seeing Vasco's strike-through intuition instinctively activated his flight-or-fight response, and he immediately sped to the right, using furthest earth to create distance between the two. Looking back at his original position, Noah saw Vasco already there, his blade already swung, creating a wave of pressurized air across the room, causing Noah's hair to sway in the wind. Noah could feel cold sweat on his back. What the fuck? If he didn't have furthest earth, which nullified any distance, he would have 100% been cooked to oblivion. Was this what speed blitzing meant when he saw those power scalers? Vasco looked at him with interest as he immediately dodged his first strike. So there was more to him than just Incinerate Anthem. But to dodge his first blow, it was as if Noah had some precognitive intuition. Not to toot his own horn, but even if Vasco was holding back, the speed he displayed was still relatively fast in his own standards. Vasco was surprisingly accurate. However, while Noah knew what was coming, without any experience similar to Artoria, he didn't know what to do after observing what was about to happen. This was because right now, the best course of personal action was to evade. This meant that his current physical strength and speed wasn't comparable to Vasco in any definition, meaning that Vasco Strada was at least 10 times stronger than a normal human. His extra boost from protection of the faith didn't apply either, as Vasco was undeniably a good person. Fortunately, the combination of instinct and furthest earth meant that being able to hit him, let alone touch him, was an astronomically difficult task to complete. A wave of holy flames burst out from Noah, as he assumed his best course of action in an enclosed space was to hit the enemy with an AoE attack. Fortunately for the Lavinia and Griselda, there was a barrier in place in the occurrence of such events. Vasco countered by swinging his sword, cutting the flames, leaving him virtually unscathed. "Brother, how does one cut flames?" Noah inwardly complained. Activating the full extent of Incinerate Anthem, Noah was constantly on the move as Vasco slashed at him, unable to touch him. In the center of the room, the flame statue of the Whore of Babylon appeared, a glowing purple cross stabbed into its chest. Vasco looked at it with a vague interest. He had seen the description from Griselda's report, but looking at it in person gave Vasco a sense of reverence, as Incinerate Anthem was a sacred gear representing the Holy Cross. The woman being stabbed reduced the feeling, however, as even without any fine definition of the flame statue, he could feel promiscuity emanating from the woman made of flames. From the cup made of flames above the woman's head, a combination of flames and liquid could be seen sloshing about, a few drops falling from the cup. While the flames itself didn't look dangerous, the small drops increased in volume, flooding the room. Noah made it only target Vasco just in case it somehow destroyed the barrier, and Noah was decently confident that it could at least debilitate Vasco. He found it kind of ironic how someone using the vessel of Noah was the one creating the flood this time. Unfortunately for Noah, a burst of energy blasted out of Durandal, disintegrating the flames. Fire can be disintegrated. Noah was learning new things about his sacred gear, and the bullshit that was the Durandal in Vasco's hands. Haha, taking advantage of the enclosed room for your sacred gear, smart. Vasco commented, looking as pristine as he looked at the beginning of the fight. Single quote. Single quote. Maybe he could try fighting close range with furthest earth. If his sacred gear did absolute jack shit against the guy, might as well abuse the shit out of furthest earth. Since Vasco couldn't touch him due to his enhanced instinct due to protection of the faith, maybe he could try to fight him with Graham and furthest earth. Dodging another one of Vasco's swings, Noah immediately took the opportunity and swung his sword like a bat, admittedly the only way he knew how to effectively swing a sword. Griselda winced at the sheer novice energy Noah showed at that instant, but Vasco immediately parried the blade and swung back. However, Noah was already behind him, swinging his blade once more. Furthest earth is low-key broken with instinct. While his leg speed was perfect, this speed didn't apply to other parts of his body, making Noah's arm swings slower than his leg speed, allowing Vasco to parry Noah's swings with the faint gap in speed. Vasco hummed in thought, parrying Noah's strikes. Having created the rule of no killing blows, using Durandal's AoE strikes was an easy way for him to break his own rules, despite being the perfect way to win in this enclosed space. The child couldn't be hit, but the child couldn't hit him either, but that was more due to the kid's lack of experience in fighting. If Noah had more time to think about his available moves, fighting him would be much harder, even if Noah only had the combination of Furthest Earth, Instinct, Graham, and Incinerate Anthem. For example, if Incinerate Anthem attacked at the same time as Noah, it would drastically increase the difficulty of parrying Noah's weapon, which had unknown specs. As it was withstanding Durandal's parries, that meant that in the case of durability, it was extremely close to its own durability, but the sharpness was still unknown. If he decided to forego parrying Noah's unknown sword in order to disperse Incinerate Anthem's flames, it could result in a more severe injury than he would expect. Maybe Vasco had screwed himself over with the no-killing blows, but this was indeed a spar in order to tell Noah's fighting abilities and style. It was just unfortunate that Noah was effectively untouchable. With perfect movement and the reaction time for that movement, the synergy with Furthest Earth and Instinct made Noah an annoying person to battle against. However, Vasco could tell that Noah was practically a greenhorn when it came to the art of combat. It was only due to Noah's reaction time cheating with Instinct along with his unnaturally fast movements cheating with Furthest Earth that gave him a semblance of expertise in close combat. However, just looking at Noah's horrible stance and grip when he held that unknown sword, it could be seen that anything physical except his speed was rather mediocre. And looking at Noah's reaction when fighting, it was clear that Noah had seen the fight as more of like a game rather than an actual fight, which could be detrimental. However, which naivete could be changed. Vasco nodded in satisfaction. While there was probably even more to Noah, his potential was still rather high. He could be a good rival to Dulio. I concede. Vasco held up his arm in surrender. You have defeated the current strongest exorcist, Vasco Strada. You have obtained the rare achievement, so I'm also stronger than Gabriel. +5 free pulls. Griselda looked flabbergasted. Vasco Strada, the Vatican's strongest exorcist, as of now surrendering to a 9-year-old. Your movement is impeccable, but everything else is rather. Vasco trailed off, not wanting to hurt Noah's feelings. Griselda nodded in agreement. While Noah's firepower was formidable, his actual fighting abilities were rather lackluster. Yeah, I know that. I have zero experience. Noah shrugged. Fighting using supernatural abilities to overpower the enemy through sheer firepower wasn't gaining experience. Noah knew that it was one of his more glaring issues. I still see a lot of potential within you, even if you are hiding your abilities. Both Lavinia and Griselda froze at that statement, but Noah wasn't particularly surprised. Vasco's first move literally revealed his Furthest Earth skill. If there was one power he was hiding, who was to say that there wasn't more? Rather, your reactions are making it even more obvious. Noah looked at Lavinia's and Griselda's nervous expressions with an incredulous look. Low-key, it was pretty obvious cause I had to dodge his attack, Noah said with a deadpan. Vasco laughed. I had a feeling you were hiding more, and I put you on the spot. I sincerely apologize for that. He gave a quick bow, causing Griselda to panic. A cardinal priest, bowing to a 9-year-old. What kind of fantasy was this? Noah on the other hand was looking at Vasco with a burdened expression. What am I supposed to do if you apologize so sincerely? It's fine, I feel that you're trustworthy anyways. Noah shrugged. I feel the same. Vasco bellowed with a smile, getting up. Although I find it interesting how you convinced little Griselda to lie for your sake, there must have been a reason, so I won't question further. Although I am happy for little Griselda to have someone she's close enough to lie for. See Cardinal Strada. Griselda could feel a blush rising on her face. Was she really that friendless? Noah gave a smug smile towards Griselda, causing her to glare back. Well, I approved of your and little Lavinia's request to join the church, but while I'm sure the church will make both of you become exorcists regardless of your wishes, I could prevent the more unsavory members of the church from making moves on you too. Vasco, as a cardinal priest, just one level below a pope along with being the wielder of Durandal and considered the strongest exorcist, had a large standing in the church and had much more authority compared to other cardinals when it came to exorcists. That would be much appreciated. However, with your skill you will still have to train until you are greenlit for missions, along with Lavinia. Vasco added. That would also be much appreciated. Then that's settled. As you already know little Griselda here, she'll be your handler until you get used to the Vatican. Vasco said, and while Griselda paused, only being able to go on 7 missions before relegated to handler duty, hanging out with her new friends didn't seem that bad. Plus, Noah sat on his bed in his new dorm he would be staying during the duration of his training. Griselda had said that she would show Noah and Lavinia the schedule tomorrow along with a tour of the place. Now, having eaten a rather sad dinner of bread, ham and an apple none particularly seasoned, Noah looked at the notification that he hadn't had the opportunity to check. First things first, he got 5 pulls from defeating Vasco even if it was from a spar. Adding on the 5 more from the achievements from when he was scamming across Chirkasi that meant he had 10. That was pretty good. Unfortunately, 2 conditions of the 3 have been met, changing the formatting of the Type Moon Gacha system. His system updated. What even were the 2 conditions? Host is currently safe and is affiliated with a faction. Damn, for the duration of your affiliation with a faction with a minimum of 10 years, there will no longer be free daily pulls and no daily quests. Weekly quests has changed to monthly quests, but result in a higher pull count reward. Noah froze. Fuuuck, he couldn't even leave, since the nerf lasted for 10 fucking years regardless of if he even left. However, a new system is in place. Go on. In exchange for 10 general banner pulls, you can obtain a random specialized character card, allowing for the host to randomly gain an aspect of that character. So it's just another fucking gacha. A random character card and a random aspect. That's a wombo combo of probabilities. Opening square bracket. For 50 free pulls, you can choose the specialized character card, allowing for the host to randomly gain an aspect of that specific character. Well, in a sense it was a pity system, so Noah guessed it was pretty okay. Rather wasn't this pretty good? It removed the possibility of getting craft essences. When using a specialized character card, the host gets 50 points for pulling on the craft essence stat point banner. The host needs 10 points to pull for the craft essence stat point banner. So he could still pull for the craft essences. Isn't this way better than the FGO pull rates? Even if getting stuff took longer, at least it guaranteed something better. This wasn't bad at all. Due to the host fulfilling the conditions of being associated with a faction and being safe, the system will allow for the choosing of 2 specialized character cards with an affiliation with God and is lawful good. Oh, a freebie. Let's fucking go. Available character cards. Character card Noah Vessel bonus 5 aspects one time only. Character card Amakusa Shuru Tokasada. Character card Jeanne d'Arc. Character card Martha. Character card Georgios. Character card Solomon. Character card Metatron Jean. Character card David. There was less than he originally expected, but looking at the king of Magecraft, Noah's excitement increased before he fell into thought. Right now, even if he got Solomon's knowledge of Magecraft, it was essentially useless on him, who wasn't that creative. Noah would definitely choose Noah for one of his specialized character card, if not solely because of the 4 extra aspects he could get from the specialized character card. Amakusa, Martha, Georgios were out. Not that Tarisk couldn't be good, but possible benefits from other characters such as Jean's X-rank magic resistance along with her other skills were more beneficial towards him. But other than Jean's skills, her suicide attack Noble Phantasm La Pucelle. But the specialized character card may also give experience and stats, so picking someone with good in both of them would also be pretty good. While he didn't know much about Metatron Jean, she had to be good if she had an angel's name in front of Jean's own name, right? Can I know the stats and skills of the characters here? No. Damn. While Noah knew about David's X-rank arc, he remembered his stats to be rather lackluster. With such a low probability of getting arc, David was also out. So in the end it was between Solomon and Metatron Jean. Solomon, the best thing he could get from him is his personal skills and noble phantasms along with his knowledge, but his noble phantasms were basically useless to him with his lack of mana. Maybe when he saved up 50 general free pulls, then he would choose Solomon, or when he had more mana. For now, choosing Solomon would only increase his options, not his potency. So Metatron Jean was his second pull. I choose Noah as my first specialized character card. Servant skill Zohar's glowing stone X rank. Class skill riding a rank. Class skill magic resistance B rank. Weapon flaming sword, rank. Noble phantasm nose arc A+ rank. Oh, holy shit. Wait, Noah was going to be completely honest, other than magic resistance and riding, he didn't really know much about the other three. Well, at least they were all above B rank. Noah could kind of tell what nose arc was, seeing as even he knew about the story. What does Zohar's glowing stone do? It is a shining stone that demonstrates that you are a descendant of Adam. On its own, it doesn't have any particularly great power. However, the stone's radiance shines in correspondence with Noah's mentality, which is not tainted by evil, nurtures the earth, and loves animals, and so it gives Noah a surge of power, worthy of being the progenitor of humanity. It also increases the efficiency of magic resistance. So, where's the stone? It is with Noah's outfit. So I don't even have the stone right now. Opening square bracket . Yes. Oh you bitch. Damn, so an X-rank skill that does nothing until he gets another part of Noah's set. Well, he still has 4 more aspects, so he can't really complain. Riding and magic resistance were self-explanatory, and his D-rank riding skill finally got up. Let's go. The flaming sword was a mystery though. What does it even do? Using the flaming sword in battle increases the potency of protection of the faith, increasing abilities and stats by another letter along with God's blessings. Holy hell, that's pretty fucking good then. As a weapon of the cherubim, and a divine construct, the concept of indestructibility is in the sword, and is extremely effective towards races that aren't evil, human, or angels. So, as of right now, it's probably the best weapon he had. Graham wasn't compatible with him currently, and Excalibur couldn't be used effectively all the time, and required some semblance of skill to wield. Noah's arc was pretty self-explanatory, was it? Noah had to make sure it did what it actually did. Creates a massive flood. That's the opposite of what the arc actually did. Well, with the new Gacha update, at least Noah got good shit. Maybe joining the church was the right call. Next was Metatron Jean's specialized character card. Go. Class skill throne creation X rank. Excuse me. Plus. AN. Yo sorry if the quality fucking dipped at the end. I just came back from the trip and wanted a chapter out. Also, my ability to write fighting scenes are practically non-existent, so sorry for that shitshow of a battle. I nerfed the gacha to facilitate time skips better, but I didn't really nerf the thing. I also liked Noah getting craft essences I kept that shit in. I'm also tired as fuck, so not a lot of jokes this chapter. Thanks for all the support and starting the next Power Stone weekly reset. I have an announcement. We have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter, and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter. 800 PS extra chapter. 1100 PS extra chapter. Etc. I don't think we'll get above 500 seeing as we only have 300 for this week, so that's why I'm doing this lol. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 21 comments 0 vote. Chicken nuggets. Throne creation. Wait, Noah didn't really know what that entailed. Host can create the throne of God, allowing the authority to speak on behalf of God. Due to the host's race being human, the mana allowed from the throne of God is at B+ rank, but having the personal skill protection of the faith, mana generated from the throne is increased from A to A+++. Host also gains access to the class skill divinity at a rank while manifesting the throne of God. Oh, didn't that mean it was essentially a mana generator? Noah didn't really see the benefits of speaking of behalf of God seeing as the man was dead, but the mana part was pretty important, seeing as a majority of his abilities or rather Merlin's illusion magecraft was heavily dependent on mana. That meant another one of his X-rank skills were viable. But damn, it looked like protection of the faith was putting in a shit ton more work than the system said. Was the system lying to him? In accordance to Host's personality, the abilities of protection of the faith is summarized in a way related to combat. Well, it was true that Noah wasn't the type to read effects of weapons in games he played unless it looked cool. But it would be nice to know, seeing as protection of the faith was inadvertently his most used skill throughout his time in DxD. The skill protection of the faith generates God's blessings from the unused energy from the currently inefficient God's system due to the death of the biblical God. This means that a majority of the energy is relegated to the host, is much more than what God would originally use because there is no God to regulate the blessings. That made sense. So what blessings did the protection of the faith actually entail? Protection from poison, protection from curses, protection from disease, protection from starvation, protection from evil intent, protection from miasma, protection from heat, protection from cold, protection from fatigue, protection from bad luck not applicable to the gacha, protection from authorities, protection from suffocation, protection from hypnosis, protection from mental contamination, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from devils, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from fallen angels, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from vampires, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from grim reapers, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from monsters, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from dragons, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from yokai, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from anyone with evil intent, decreased effectiveness of any attacks from gods, resistance from dark magic, resistance from light magic, resistance from elemental magic, resistance from flooding, increased natural regeneration, increased affinity with holy energy, increased affinity with holy swords, increased power of stats, increased power of skills, increased power of noble phantasms, increased power when fighting evil, increased ability to create life, increased affinity with lawful good entities, increased affinity with neutral good entities, increased affinity with chaotic good entities, increased affinity with entities with pure and just faith in God, increased affinity with angels, increased sensitivity from evil intent, increased charisma, increased memory with holy scriptures, can tell salt from sugar, always clean, Noah looked at the list, flabbergasted. Was he the fucking reincarnation of Reinhard von Astria? Also, what was the can tell salt from sugar blessing supposed to be? While Noah did understand that his skill was X rank, other than some conveniences, he didn't really think it was X rank, but looking at this shitshow of a list, a sense of gratefulness was felt. Thank God he pulled this skill. Also, there was no way he would remember all that. Holy, maybe God's death in DxD was a good thing if he got all these blessings. Noah flopped onto his bed, still looking at the screen filled with all his fucking blessings. I understand it now. Noah laid on his bed, changed out of his Captain Nemo outfit and into the trainee outfit that Griselda handed Noah and Lavinia when she led them to the dorms. Even if the outfit may have looked cool, it was a splash of black on the whiteness that was the Vatican, white vestments on white vestments everywhere. Also, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But Noah couldn't really fall asleep. Noah had seen a cool-looking garden while Griselda walked him to the dorms, so maybe he would go take a look. Putting on his new sandals, Noah slowly opened the door and looked around the dark hallways, only brightened from the moonlight streaming through the windows. Noah didn't really know if he was the only one in the dorms, since it was extremely quiet. Maybe he would be transferred to a different area tomorrow. Well, Noah wasn't that good at making friends, preferring a small group of friends rather than a large group. After all, with a smaller group the chances of being ostracized or left out were much smaller. Not that he was projecting, cause he didn't have any friends. Haha. But he read those Reddit stories. So, Noah would just trust his protection of the faith skill, which for now was his most broken non-combat related ability to make some friends. For now, Griselda and Lavinia were perfectly fine. Noah walked through the marble hallways, pondering, if the Bible said it was bad to be greedy and the accumulation of wealth for its own sake, then why was this place so luxurious? The roofs had carvings of stories from the Bible, and Noah thought that was pretty unnecessarily extravagant. Arriving at the garden, Noah saw that it was covered with a small layer of snow, creating a feeling of tranquility with the silence. It felt weird hearing silence when they were essentially in the middle of Rome. Noah stepped on the snow, which curiously didn't cave in, as if Noah weighed less than a feather. This was a combination of furthest earth and jewel of the earth. If he was a pretty princess, he would start singing about now and twirling around, but Noah wasn't a pretty princess. Walking around the blanket of snow under the moonlight, Noah was low-key getting in a philosophical vibe. In a sense, he was feeling it. Noah got in a philosophical position, and opened his mouth to speak something profound. Chicken nuggets. Noah chuckled at his own joke, dropping to his back and stretching with a light grunt, before exhaling in satisfaction. He closed his eyes in content. It was these moments where there was nothing supernatural, no responsibilities, that made Noah feel at peace and in the moment. Just him and his breathing. However, after a few seconds, he could hear another person's breath. What? Noah opened his eyes to be face to face with a buxom blonde-haired woman with soft green eyes that oozed of acceptance and love. She wore a classic nun's habit but had her hair peeking out. Isn't the hair not supposed to be shown? As the sister had bent down, Noah could feel the sister's hair tickling his face, as their faces were rather uncomfortably close to each other. Noah flinched at the sudden appearance of a sister. How did he just not notice? The sister tilted her head with a curious gaze. Chicken nuggets. She heard that too. Noah froze, trying to come up with a random response. I like chicken nuggets. Was he fucking retarded? The sister smiled. I like chicken as well. They're very tasty. But it seemed the sister was just as retarded as he was. But Noah wanted to see how far the sister would go. But I don't like burgers. Well, while Noah didn't go out of his way to get burgers, if it was on his plate he would eat it. Not something he would crave. He wasn't that picky. But the sister had a sad frown on her face. Why don't you like burgers? It wasn't the fact that Noah didn't like burgers that made her sad, but that he was picky. Noah gave a small smile. Somehow, Noah's thoughts on the person in front of him was overwhelmingly positive. Even more than Vasco Strada. Just kidding. The sister pouted. That wasn't very nice. She gave a small poke to Noah's forehead. Noah chortled. Sorry, I forgive you. The sister smiled softly once more. So, why are you here while it's dark? Noah shrugged. I wasn't sleepy and wanted to look around. Me too. While the two were having some more random small talk, Noah was wondering why the sister was still so close to his face, but the sister interrupted his thoughts. I don't know why, but I feel like you're a nice person. Is that so? It was definitely because of protection of the faith. Yeah, your aura makes me feel nice. The sister explained, getting closer to Noah to the point where their noses touched. Is that why you like me? Noah offhandedly asked. Personally, while Noah was grateful for protection of the faith, he didn't really think that having skills that increased affinity created real relationships. The sister shook her head. While your aura brought me in, you yourself is what's keeping me here. She gave a reassuring smile. Noah froze at the statement that sliced through the underlying pessimism he had when he discovered the protection of the faith could increase affinity. Noah gave a rare genuine smile. Thank you, I feel the same. Now it was the sister's turn to freeze for an instant before smiling back with a small tinge of red on her face. No problem, you remind me of my father. Must be a great man. Noah joked. The sister gave a wistful smile. Yes, he was. Oh, that must have hit a bad spot. Noah never had parents to have such feelings, but it wasn't like he was a bitch about it either. Sorry about that. For what? Nothing. So what's your name? Strategy, change subjects. You can call me Sister L. What's yours? Noah. Reminds me of someone I once knew. Really? Well, Noah wasn't going to pry. The two conversed in that awkward position until Noah eventually got tired. Are you sleepy? Yeah, Sister L rose from her position and extended a hand, which Noah held as she lifted him up. Thank you. Noah didn't know why, but somehow being next to this Sister L made him mellow as hell. Protection of the faith only increased affinity, but this didn't seem a part of the protection's jurisdiction. I enjoyed our conversation, Sister L. I could say the same, little Noah. L gave a smile and a wave. Farewell, maybe we will meet again. Yeah, thanks for the therapy session. Noah gave a smile and a wave back. Sister L watched fondly as Noah walked away from the garden, her nun's habit turning into motes of light, as she changed into her normal outfit as an angel. When she felt her father's energy at the Vatican, Gabriel had wondered if they had found someone with a potential to become a saint, even with her father's death, but instead, Gabriel came into interaction with an adorable child who, while seemed to be mature for his age, was just a child. She wanted to be his guardian angel so bad. How adorable. Plus, here's your damn bonus chapter. I'll post the actual daily chapter later, but here's your 500 PS reward. I really didn't think this was possible. Also, I have a philosophical question. If you were 18 and DxD to a 9-year-old, are you mentally 27 when you get back to 18, or is your mentality stagnant because your experiences would still be expected of your own age? 'Cause Noah transmigrated when he was 18, and he doesn't have any experience being an adult, and he's only re-experiencing being a child again. I personally think his mentality wouldn't get any older. Also, compared to Gabriel, bro's a fucking baby anyways. I also realized that in the previous chapter The Flaming Sword I wrote that the Flaming Sword wasn't effective towards evil races. That was a typo. I wrote that shit at 2 AM, gimme a break. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter. 1100 PS extra chapter. And so on. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 18 comments, 0 vote. You're an orphan. Me too. So we really are moving? Noah asked Griselda, feeling much better after the small discussion he had with Sister L. He suspected that she was an angel. The triple boost of angel, pure and just faith, and lawful good probably resulted in that result. Unfortunately, the only angel he remembered in the anime was Michael. But his belief in the affinity boost from protection of the faith changed. He now just saw it as a way to get a step in the door, not something that automatically granted him entry. It was up to him to keep the relationship. That made him feel much better about his relationship with Griselda. Griselda nodded after she quickly finished the tour of the Vatican. While there are training grounds inside Vatican City, it was more convenient and more secretive to train in separate institutions where there was less population density in the case of collateral damage. Also, Vatican City itself was very public, with it being a tourist location, and more of a honorary headquarters more than having any useful facilities. Unfortunately, the church had decided that the institution for training exorcists was close enough to Rome, only being on the outskirts and as such, didn't have a teleportation circle to the location, arranging for transportation instead. So Noah, Lavinia, and Griselda were on their way to the church's affiliated institution in a car driven by a random person. So what's our schedule? Well, today's just meeting the people in your class. Well, that was what was supposed to happen for normal people training to become exorcists. Griselda explained to Lavinia and Noah, looking at the papers in her hands. However, the church wants the both of you to get specialized education with consideration to your Longinus along with combat training with Ueld Cristaldi training alongside Dulio Gesualdo. Who's Dulio? Lavinia asked, tilting her head at the unfamiliar name. He used to be the only Longinus wielder the church had until you two came. Zenith Tempest, which allows the user to control the weather and all its attributes. Weather report, is that you? Noah interjected, to the confusion of Lavinia and Griselda. What? Never mind. Griselda was getting used to Noah's random unknown references. It was better to just skip over it. So the church wants us to, I don't know, push each other to our limits or something like that. Griselda paused. Yes, that was exactly what the church intended when they placed Noah and Lavinia with Dulio, as he used to train by himself or when Cardinal Cristaldi and Vasco Strada was available, having surpassed his peers and even older students. Yes, Hey, knew it, Noah chuckled smugly, having an extremely hittable expression on his face. Well, to be honest, he was looking forward to training with Dulio, mainly in part due to his newly created monthly quest. Monthly quest: defeat Dulio Gesualdo in a spar 20 times plus 20 general free pulls incomplete. He also had 10 general free pulls already saved, but he was going to be saving it for a chosen specialized character card. Seeing as his biggest weakness as of now was actual combat ability, the skill that Noah was aiming for was Eternal Arms Mastery, the personal skill of Lancelot and Minamoto no Raiko. However, Lancelot, as a Knight of the Round Table, majority of his class skills and personal skills along with his parameters were all desirable. During the rest of the ride to the institution, the three just made small talk, and attempted to play a game of three-way chess, which devolved into just saying random chessboard locations once more, since Lavinia's control over her sacred gear wasn't precise enough to create constructs such as chess pieces. When they arrived, Griselda explained the actual schedule. We'll see your aptitude in swordsmanship and magic along with holy power, and then the trainers will create a specialized schedule from your aptitudes. However, every day 3 hours before dinner, you two will have to train with Cardinal Cristaldi along with Dulio in general combat. After dinner and before you sleep will be the only time to rest. Griselda read off the paper again, looking more concerned. While she thought her schedule was pretty bad, it seemed Noah and Lavinia had it even worse. Also, you will need to pray and memorize scriptures in the morning and before you go to bed along with general education such as math, science, language arts, strategy, and… Griselda trailed off. Lavinia already looked exhausted, while Noah looked like he gave up on life. Maybe I just shouldn't have joined, Noah mumbled. Griselda could do nothing but awkwardly laugh. Was this the fate of the strong? Plus, unfortunately or fortunately, Noah had no aptitude for magic in DxD but had a lot of aptitude in holy power and a little in swordsmanship. Oppositely, Lavinia had no aptitude for swordsmanship and holy power, but the proctors had said that she had an extremely high aptitude with magic, having statements that even if she didn't have a sacred gear, she would still be a formidable magician. Noah, while having mana to use, used mana completely differently than the magicians of DxD. In DxD, magicians use mana stored in the body which was absorbed from atmospheric mana to actualize spells through formulas and calculations, while Magus and Fate use the mana in the air to actualize spells through incantations and mysteries. So in a sense it was like trying to use a completely different school of magic. This was because Noah had magic circuits, an organ that generates odd and magical energy, and something the people of this universe didn't have. So when Noah tried to use magic, it was rather lackluster. Well, the less classes Noah had to take the better it was, seeing as he was pretty fucking bad at math. In the end, a majority of his training would be regarding combat. He already had common sense, and you only really needed to know addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Science was the devil's scriptures and language wasn't that bad. The trio made their way to where they would stay with Dulio. Rather, they would be staying in something similar to a share house. Opening the door, they saw Dulio laying down like he was drained of all his energy, blankly staring at the ceiling, mumbling, "Cardinal said the training would be short today," repeatedly. Griselda looked at the prospective strongest exorcist blankly, before coughing into her hands. Ahem. Dulio jumped in fright, almost instinctively bowing. "This guy really has that PTSD, huh?" Noah offhandedly commented. Dulio felt relieved that the person in the room wasn't Cardinal Cristaldi. He was notified yesterday that he would have 2 more peers to train with, and instead of being nervous, he could only be grateful. The more people to spread out Cardinal Cristaldi's wrath, the better it would be for him. "Ah, you must be my new peers," Dulio gave a sheepish smile. That was kind of embarrassing. Noah raised his hand in greeting. "Yo, my name's Noah. 9 years old. Orphan." Lavinia inwardly smirked at the familiarity of the statement before also introducing herself. Lavinia Rennie. 9 years old. Also an orphan. Dulio looked extremely confused at the random introduction. And why was the information that they were orphans important? Dulio Gesualdo, 9 years old, also an orphan. Griselda sighed in exasperation at the familiarity of Noah's and Lavinia's introduction. Noah held out his hands for a handshake, which Dulio reciprocated, but instead of letting go, Noah looked to his right and gestured towards absolutely nothing. Smile for the camera, Noah smiled at the wall. Dulio, caught up in Noah's momentum, followed his steps before having a sense of realization as he heard Lavinia's laughter. Hey, Dulio couldn't help but complain, turning back to Noah. Noah looked at Dulio as if he really did see a camera. Do you really not see it? Noah looked back to the non-existent camera, giving a small wave. Was there really a camera? Dulio looked at where Noah was looking, scanning for a possible hidden camera until he heard an interruption. Just kidding. Dulio froze, even hearing Griselda's giggles. He turned his head to a smiling Noah, glaring at him, before sighing with a resigned expression. Sorry bro, you're just too gullible. See, it's written on the ceiling. Noah looked up, and Dulio followed, seeing nothing on the ceiling. Dulio froze once more. Even Noah started laughing, clutching at his stomach, and Dulio couldn't do anything but watch Griselda giving him a look of pity, wiping off her tears from her laughter. Sorry, I just wanted to try, Noah continued laughing, pointing at Dulio. Dulio's face darkened, before rushing at Noah at an attempt to tackle him. Unfortunately, Noah's combination of instinct and furthest earth automatically dodged the attack, appearing behind Dulio. But Dulio didn't crash into the floor, rather having 1 year of experience under Ewald Cristaldi's personal training let him instinctually follow the momentum and get up with a roll. Now instead of animosity, Dulio looked at Noah with curiosity. Didn't the information say that Noah only had Incinerate Anthem? What was that movement? Teleportation? Pure agility? Noah knew Dulio was relatively trustworthy, his opinion of Dulio already being pretty high from protection of the faith, being on the same level as Vasco despite only being 9 years old, and the same age as Noah. It was similar to how he trusted Lavinia. Noah noticed Dulio's curious gaze. Pause. Can't we just fight tomorrow? Let's just do some team bonding for now. He raised his hands in semi-surrender. Dulio paused, before begrudgingly nodding, leading Noah, Lavinia, and Griselda to the living room. Well, they tried to include Griselda, but she shook her head, saying that she needed to leave. Normally, I shouldn't be here, seeing as I was greenlit for exorcist missions. Also, due to the shortage right now I've already been assigned a new mission tomorrow. Griselda explained, but when I have time I'll visit. Lavinia looked sad. Even if they started rather rocky, as fellow girls, it was much easier to bond, and she didn't want to see a friend she made so recently leave so soon. Then good luck. Noah gave a thumbs up. While it was unfortunate, goodbyes were a natural part of life. As someone without parents and living in foster care, it was normal to say goodbye. Rather it was better not to be all emotional about it. See you later. Dulio felt the same. But his case was that he couldn't really get particularly close to his peers due to his status as the future powerhouse, changing relationships from possible friendship to admiration or jealousy. It was another reason why he was excited to have 2 more Longinus users to train with. Lavinia gave Griselda a hug, and reluctantly waved as she left. When Griselda left, the 3 naturally got into their own comfortable positions. Noah sat on the edge of the large couch leaning back, with Lavinia laying down on his lap, and Dulio sat on a smaller couch next to it, looking at the two strangely. Are you 2 dating? No, we're partners. It's even better than marriage. Lavinia countered. She had been with relatives who had rocky relationships with their spouses, making Lavinia unconsciously think being in a romantic relationship resulted in fighting. To her, the more neutral-sounding partners make it sound like she would stay with Noah forever. Noah nodded. He also wanted to say the same thing, well, not the better than marriage part, but it might be better for Lavinia to have that misunderstanding. Dulio scratched his head in confusion. Is that so? Well, maybe his experience was wrong. As an orphan who immediately started training after his sacred gear was discovered soon after his newly minted orphan status, he was rather ignorant of the world. It was why he was looking forward to being greenlit for missions, even though in his case, when he wasn't doing missions he would have to train until the church was satisfied or until he was strong enough to the point the church couldn't control him. Let's do an actual introduction then. My name's Noah. I don't have a last name. Like I said earlier, I don't have any parents. They died before I ever met them, so I don't have much of an opinion on them. Right now, I'm kind of craving some fried chicken. My dream. I don't really have a specific dream, but since I'm here, I might as well try to do things that my future self would be proud of. Noah shrugged. While he felt like it sounded kind of corny, it was this corniness that built camaraderie in his rather humble opinion. You don't have to go as in-depth as I did if you aren't comfortable, by the way. Noah added. It was because he really didn't have an opinion on his parents, both having died before he could even meet them. His mom died during childbirth, and the dad committed suicide soon after. Did he resent his father? Not really. Rather, it was hard to form an opinion on the man even after he learned of this information. Quote. That's a nice goal, Dulio commented, tactfully overlooking Noah's opinion on his non-existent parents. Lavinia nodded while on Noah's lap. Thanks. Maybe in the future I'll have a real dream. Noah shrugged. I think it's a real dream though, Lavinia added, trying to comfort Noah. Quote. Maybe it is. Lavinia went next. My name's Lavinia Rennie. My parents died not that long ago, or rather earlier in the year. My sacred gear made it hard for me to get taken in by my relatives, but I met Noah so it wasn't that bad. Right now I'm craving some seasoned hair. My dream is to prevent children from facing the same problem I had. Lavinia held out her hands in exclamation. Noah and Dulio nodded. That's a pretty nice dream, Noah commented, stroking Lavinia's hair, as she hummed in satisfaction. I agree. Dulio nodded. It was similar to his own dream. My name's Dulio Gesualdo. I'm a war orphan from a civil strife around a year and a half ago when my sacred gear was discovered and was brought here to train. While I haven't had really good food in a while, I am kind of craving a lollipop. My dream is similar to Lavinia's, trying to prevent children from facing the same problem I faced and protect them. Noah and Lavinia clapped. That's pretty admirable, Lavinia exclaimed, with Noah agreeing. Wow, now my dream looking kind of selfish, Noah joked. Dulio and Lavinia both shook their heads. It would be selfish of me to project my own wishes onto you, seeing as we have completely different life experiences. Dulio countered. While Noah could say, what life experience, you're only 9, each person here had to grow early in their own separate ways. But all three had the inevitable experience of separation. That's true, Noah hummed. The three made some more small talk, but as the sun set, their conversations came to a close. It would be good to sleep early. I had a rare break time today because I had to meet you guys, but normally I would still be training. Dulio shivered. As someone with a naturally carefree demeanor, his training schedule was torture. The only break is Sunday, but even then we do memorize scriptures and pray. Damn, Noah sighed. So where do we sleep? Oh, there's 2 floors, and each floor has their own bathroom. Just in case new people come here, there's extra rooms. The second floor is for girls, and the first is for boys. I already chose an empty room. The Vatican provides everything from clothes to a toothbrush. They also clean while we train. While Dulio didn't like how much training he had each day, he had to admit that the Vatican did their jobs correctly. Noah and Lavinia nodded. They quickly chose their own rooms before heading to bed, already weary of their schedule tomorrow. Plus, another short chap. Getting used to this. Also, I finally decided on the ages of possible relevant characters. Asia is 17 when canon starts. 2 years old. Kiba is 17 when canon starts. 2 years old. Devil at 12. Valerie is 17 when canon starts. 2 years old. Zenobia is 17 when canon starts. 2 years old. Fried and Lint Selzen are 19 when canon starts. 4 years old. Jean is 19 when canon starts. 4 years old. Siegfried is 22 when canon starts. 7 years old. Noah is 24 when canon starts. 9 years old. Dulio is 24 when canon starts. 9 years old. Lavinia is 24 when canon starts. 9 years old. Griselda is 28 when canon starts. 13 years old. Accuracy don't matter. It's how this fanfic is going to work by. Plus, Also, I really didn't expect Noah to have such a sad backstory like that's crazy. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter. 1100 PS extra chapter. And so on. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 17 comments 0 vote. Am I Mahoriga? Noah. Someone shook his bed with urgency. Bedraggled, Noah swiftly woke up, looking around to see Dulio looking panicked. Why are you still sleeping? Don't you know what happens if you're late to morning prayer? The tone of a man with trauma was heard from Dulio, who had woken up at his normal time of 5 a.m. and had swiftly washed up. Lavinia had done the same, not because she willingly woke up, but she had heard Dulio scrambling downstairs, so she took the opportunity to do the same. Noah looked pretty confused, but rubbed his eyes, getting out of his bed. Before he went to bed, he wore the training outfit that seemed to be the only thing in the wardrobe other than a smaller variation of a normal priest's garb, presumably when they do something other than training. While originally, Noah would also be worried, but with his protection of the faith's protection from fatigue and always clean effects, Noah just rubbed his eyes, dry rubbed his face, and shook his head to clean up the stray hairs swaying in front of his face. Now he looked good as always. Dulio paused, looking at Noah's rather pristine condition. Are you not going to wash up? Noah looked at him with a questioning expression. Dulio, even if he had woken up pretty early due to habit, this didn't mean he was a morning person. Rather, he was someone who preferred to sleep in. So despite washing up, he still looked worse for wear. Noah, on the other hand, just woke up and other than the initial disorientation, actually looked much cleaner than Dulio. While the feeling of not cleaning up despite always being clean might have psychologically affected Noah, due to the blessing he constantly felt like he just came out the shower instead. The rubbing his eyes and face rubbing was more force of habit rather than being necessary, seeing as he never actually accumulated eye crust or face oil because of protection of the faith. And with protection from fatigue, just blinking a few times was enough to feel perfectly fine. Why do you look cleaner than I do? It must be God's blessing, Noah shrugged. What a convenient blessing, Dulio deadpanned, his worry for naught. Funnily enough, even if Dulio hadn't waked him up, Noah's protection from bad luck combined with his luck would have woken him up regardless. I know, right? Dulio huffed, leaving his room with Noah in tow, seeing Lavinia drowsily sway sitting on the couch, blinking when she saw Noah. Mornin', Lavinia mumbled. It was the first time she had woken up so early, willingly. Yo, Noah raised his hand in response before looking at Dulio. So what's for breakfast? We have to recite scriptures at the connected chapel and then we can eat breakfast. I assume the staff will deliver us the food when we come back. Dulio shrugged. While he had a similar start to the day with the other trainees then go separate ways during the actual training, it was his first time only being in a separate sharehouse-style dorm. That made Noah's expression darken and Lavinia's fall. This wouldn't be a good day. Plus, Lavinia was caught nodding off during prayer recital and memorization, and was punished by having her hands raised. Unfortunately, the nun also punished Noah and Dulio since they were now in a sense comrades in arms, and not making sure Lavinia was focusing properly was also on them. Brother what? Noah had assumed that the church would give them at least a few days to get used to it, but nope. Immediate work. The subjects to learn were pretty easy, basic 3rd and 4th grade subjects. It seemed that while the church wanted them to become their soldiers, not having basic education wouldn't be beneficial. General education was the class that the three had together in the mornings, and Noah had relatively breezed through all his classes, surprising the tutor. The tutor hummed and thought when Noah hadn't asked much questions and completed most problems with ease, ignoring the jealous looks from Dulio. The tutor had wrote some notes in her notebook, presumably proposing advanced education. Even Noah, who had been a high school graduate, could easily solve questions meant for 4th graders. He wasn't that dumb. The only issue he had was with history, seeing as it was about a completely unfamiliar country other than some snippets he knew from Fate, and that was not reliable information, seeing as Nero was a woman. Lavinia had to learn Italian from scratch, so she had a separate language tutor along with the general tutor. In order to prevent familiarity and possible influences from different factions, the higher-ups had decided that the tutors would be under a rotation system and not converse personal information with the 3 children. With all 3 wielding weapons that could make them on par with gods, while unsavory members wanted to influence them to their own faction, there was an opposing side, and they eventually compromised to prevent as much politics to influence the children until they were nurtured further. After the general education classes, Noah and Dulio made their way to their swordsmanship tutor, separating from Lavinia, who had to learn magic. While Noah also had compatibility with holy energy, due to the difficulty of finding a tutor that wasn't currently either slaying evil or retired, it was filled with swordsmanship until a suitable tutor could be found. Dulio, while he didn't primarily use swordsmanship, unless there was a reason he shouldn't, such as compatibility or a specialization in a different scope, was learning the basics. He could even say he was rather decent at it for someone who had been only learning for a year and a half. Noah was someone who had zero experience in swordsmanship. So during the class, Dulio had smugly been the example for specific yadda, then slowly became more and more humbled as Noah was learning stances, balance, and edge alignment at an extremely fast pace that even surprised the tutor. Rather, even Noah was confused, seeing as his aptitude wasn't even that high in swordsmanship. It just felt natural, looking at the instructor give examples for yadda and easily being able to incorporate it into his own. Was this also the Noah vessel buff? Your personal skill, protection of the faith, added God's blessings, increased general memory, increased learning, increased computation ability, increased aptitude for swordsmanship, increased aptitude for bladed weapons, increased aptitude for cold weapons, increased aptitude for combat, increased dynamic visual acuity, increased reaction time, increased aptitude for holy abilities, and increased aptitude for flame abilities. No, it wasn't. What the fuck was he really turning into Reinhard? The description showed that the skill generated God's blessings. It constantly generates blessings for the comfort of the host. This isn't controllable. I see. This skill was more broken than he expected. This is due to extreme access energy from God's system with no person to control the output of the amount of blessings. Well, that made sense. So he was just a weaker Reinhard. But even that was extremely good. Protection of the faith, proving once more that it was an X-rank skill. Just a reminder, this does not create something out of nothing, only boosting host's natural abilities, current problems, and unconscious requests that doesn't go against God's original intent. This means that even if host wanted blessings against angels, it wouldn't happen. I unconsciously wanted to tell salt from sugar. Well, this skill was even more broken than Noah gave credit for, which was saying a lot since he already gave the skill a shit ton of credit. Can I get a notification when I get a blessing? Yes. Noah nodded. He would see it as something similar to Mahoraga's adaptation, but not as strong. So he used it to flex on Dulio by already being on par with his meager swordsmanship in the span of a 3-hour lesson. The trio their way to lunch and meeting up with Lavinia, who looked rather excited in contrast to Dulio's rather shitty mood. So how was magic class? Noah asked. It was pretty fun. We only went over the basics and it was really interesting. Lavinia gushed, getting the attention of Dulio, who was sulking. Dulio didn't have much skill in magic, only being able to learn a few spells in the span of a year and a half, such as the basic language spells. Since his strength was centered around his sacred gear, he only had 2 magic lessons a week. Noah only had 1, so Dulio was pretty interested in magic, which he hadn't been able to advance that much. After all, what kind of child wouldn't be excited to fire beams of magic out his hands? The 3 quickly ate their nutrient-perfect food specifically prepared by hired nutritionists. Unfortunately, the food was rather bland. Is this stuff supposed to be American? Noah mumbled, looking at the slop in his bowl next to the pity bread. Lavinia took a scoop of the slop, frowned, but reluctantly ate it. Dulio, used to such bland training food, wolfed it down. The faster he ate, the less time the flavor would stay in his mouth. American food is this bad? Well, Noah was really referencing to how stereotypical American households seasoned with only salt and pepper, but he didn't know if that was the thing here, but nothing wrong with shitting on the US as an American. He needed Dulio to learn this early. Yeah, I heard that they only season stuff with salt and pepper, and... Noah continued, it would be pretty funny if Dulio had preconceptions that American food was shit. Dulio hummed in thought. Noah only took small bites, waiting for something. Protection of the faith generates protection from bad food. Nice. Noah went into his food into more fervor, the slop now tasting more like mashed potatoes than an ambiguous slop of nothing. Dulio looked at Noah with confusion. Why the sudden change in heart? He looked at Lavinia for an explanation, but she could only shrug. Well, if Noah had to eat to get energy for his first lesson from Cardinal Cristaldi, then good for him, Dulio supposed. His training style was a bona fide nightmare. Plus. An extremely short chapter, which I do apologize for. I'm preparing for short time skips, so this chapter was more to give the readers some info on their daily schedule. I can't do large time skips. It's not my specialty. I prefer smaller time skips. I think after the next chapter we'll have a small time skip. Also, I think my reasoning for protection of the faith is pretty decent. Also, a majority of Noah's new blessings manifestations are limited by Noah's imagination. Can't create something out of nothing. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter. 800 PS extra chapter. 1100 PS extra chapter. And so on. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST, cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 21 comments, 0 vote. Noah use flamethrower. Are you sure this is our training ground? Noah commented, being in a wide space of land with grass beneath them. Dulio shrugged. I trained here cause of my sacred gear. With possible mistakes one could make when using Zenith Tempest, the church had decided to have Dulio train in a more open space of land, trying to prevent any damage to the buildings. This kind of looks more like a Pokemon stadium. Has that even released yet? If they replaced the Pokeball with a cross, then that was the general vibe of the training ground. What's Pokemon? Lavinia asked. It's a game that you capture familiars and have them fight each other. Or something like that. Noah tried to explain. Sounds fun. Dulio commented. Noah nodded. Quote. It sure does. Anyways, does Cardinal Cristaldi always come late? It was time for general combat training, but Ewald was nowhere in sight. Dulio seemed just as confused. That was strange. Normally Cardinal Cristaldi was here even before he arrived, but it seemed today was a little different. The three waited for a few more minutes until an older man arrived along with a grown woman, both in training attire. Dulio bowed to the older man, and Noah and Lavinia followed. While Noah may have shown disrespect towards Vasco, since Noah did indeed join the Vatican as an exorcist trainee, he would follow proper procedure. He wasn't that disrespectful. Your Eminence, my apologies for the delay. I came here to introduce Lavinia to her specific tutor. My own tutor? Ewald nodded. He gestured for the woman to introduce herself. You can call me Sister Daphne. I will tutor you on the usages of your sacred gear until you can effectively use it in combat scenarios, so this will last around a week. Sister Daphne gave a small bow and nodded towards the three. I was tardy due to escorting Sister Daphne. She's the owner of a similar independent avatar-type sacred gear Fimbulwinter Lepus, which allows her control over ice, though her avatar, a rabbit. Due to the similarities, the Vatican has stationed her here for a week until you're able to decently use the sacred gear in combat. Ewald explained to Lavinia. While Lavinia was able to manifest her sacred gear absolute demise, her control and power were all rather inconsistent, and she hadn't been able to properly use the sacred gear, having only been a week since she first manifested it. Lavinia paused. She didn't really want to be separated from Noah and Dulio, mainly because it felt like she was the odd one out. But she admitted that her experience in battle was rather lacking, even non-existent. She was determined to catch up, and maybe even surpass Noah and Dulio. She wanted to be equals with Noah, not him protecting her all the time. Relationships where only one person always gives wasn't a healthy one. Her parents had taught her that. Lavinia reluctantly nodded and followed Daphne to the other side of the wide plain of the training field. Ewald now turned his attention to Noah and Dulio. Unfortunately, while I cannot educate both of you much in terms of the usage of your own sacred gears, this class will be general combat, so usage of your own sacred gears will be allowed. Ewald Cristaldi, the current wielder of Excalibur Rapidly and Excalibur Blessing, didn't have much options in terms of large-scale attacks, but his expertise was in close combat and general battle IQ. However, you will learn how to fight smart with me, and then spar between yourselves during the remaining time. Ewald plainly said, before looking at Noah. I have heard from Cardinal Priest Strada regarding your unnatural speed. While not using everything at your disposal isn't something I would recommend, using it often increases your dependency on that trait, so during the spars with me I would recommend trying to not use it as much as possible. Noah nodded. Technically there was no way for Noah to lose the ability to use furthest earth unless his legs were chopped off, and at that point he was cooked no matter what he did, but trying to not use it would be good for trying to learn combat arts. I will be sparring with Dulio, so observe carefully. Noah nodded. Making his way to the sidelines, he glanced at Sister Daphne explaining the versatility of ice and how normally for independent avatar-type sacred gears, the weakest part was the actual user. He looked back to Dulio and Ewald. Ewald held a wooden sword relatively relaxed, while Dulio held his hands out with his own wooden sword, tense. Please count down, Brother Noah. Noah raised his hand, counting down from 5. As he reached 0, Dulio immediately shot a gust of wind at Ewald, who evaded with ease, speeding towards Dulio. Noah wondered what elixirs these exorcists were fucking consuming, cause how in the world do these old men move so fast? Weren't they supposed to be human? Dulio used his sacred gear primarily to keep crowd control and prevent Ewald from approaching, which worked a few times, but after a few more attempts, his bursts of elements were getting more inaccurate, allowing for Ewald to close the distance. He shot a large burst of lightning all around him, and Ewald again somehow dodged lightning. Is this guy really just a human with no sacred gear? The stuff the man's able to do looks pretty unnatural to Noah. Not being able to use furthest earth meant that Noah would have to rely on his low servant stats, which was still pretty fucking fast. But he was still pretty nervous, watching Dulio lose eventually because he wasn't able to damage Ewald. With how Ewald's mouth was moving, it seemed that he was giving Dulio advice while sparring, as after he spoke, Dulio changed tactics, forming mist on the ground, reducing visibility. Protection of the faith generates increased visibility. What the hell? The skill works when I'm not even fighting. Yes. Oh damn. As the spar continued, Noah kept generating more and more blessings that he didn't even know would be useful, and eventually, it got even more specific and detailed the more he watched. Protection of the faith generates increased adaptability against older entities. Protection of the faith generates increased focus against older entities. Protection of the faith generates increased reaction time against older entities. Protection of the faith generates decreased effectiveness of any attacks from older entities. Protection of the faith generates decreased effectiveness of any attacks from cold weapons. Protection of the faith generates increased adaptability against taller entities. Protection of the faith generates increased focus against taller entities. Protection of the faith generates increased reaction time against taller entities. Protection of the faith generates decreased effectiveness of any attacks from taller entities. Protection of the faith. Protection of the. Protection of. Protection. Opening square bracket ... closing square bracket. The moment a blessing came that worked against people whose first name started with an E, Noah became even more flabbergasted. Brother, why is this skill fucking working overdrive? The skill works faster because you know of its existence, unconsciously wanting blessings against human Ewald Cristaldi because you know that protection of the faith can generate blessings. Also, the skill is boosted due to the host being tense. Quote ... However, there is a limit to the amount of strength a more specific blessing gives. That was good. While it would have been funny for Noah to only be good against Ewald and no one else, having to get used to different amounts of strength against different people would have been inconvenient. Noah watched as Dulio eventually tired out and surrendered, trudging over to Noah, collapsing onto the ground next to him. I am so tired. Noah chuckled at the tired expression on Dulio's face, and looked at Ewald, who looked just as he did before the spar, albeit more soaked. Brother, did you even make him tired? Huh. Dulio looked at Noah confused. Noah nodded toward Ewald. Look, Cardinal Cristaldi doesn't even look half tired. Dulio went silent. He thought he was pretty unique with creating that mist, but other than making Ewald tired, it just made his garb damp. He put an effort to look up and saw Ewald looking at the two with no change in expression. He slumped once more. Dang it. But at least Noah would have to experience that. Brother Noah, it's your turn. Noah walked up with his own wooden sword. He had an agility stat of 50 cause of protection of the faith, and that was 10 times as strong as a normal human, and with the increase in affinity for flames, maybe it wouldn't be like yesterday where his flames were somehow cut. Or maybe that was just Durandal. Noah stood across from Ewald. If Ewald was similar to Vasco, then his first move would probably be bum rushing him, so shooting an attack immediately as the spar started would be good. While Noah didn't have much variation compared to Dulio, in some cases it was better, because there didn't need to be much thoughts for which element was optimal. After all, his holy flames already had high fire power. As the count reached 0, Noah instantly let out a large burst of purple flames similar to a breath of fire, almost instantly covering half of the field, getting Lavinia and Daphne's attention along with Dulio's astonishment. Ewald created a barrier consisted of holy energy, which was able to resist the flames for a while before cracking. However, he wasn't still during this time, running to the edge of the flame blast. Because sacred gears were limited by imagination and visualization, Noah imagined the strongest thing he could think of that expelled flames. A dragon. Noah reminisced back to when he had first read Overgird and when dragons were first introduced. The way the author showed how absolute they were in that world had a large impact on Noah when he had read the web novel. The power of the refracting dragon and the fire dragon Trauka gave him goosebumps. Didn't know why the ending was so rushed though. The moment he saw Ewald get out of the range of his initial blast, Noah was about to shoot another supercharged fire blast in Ewald's direction when his instinct showed a magically enhanced wooden sword thrown toward him. Noah raised his own blade to deflect it, raising his hand to shoot the fire blast once more but paused when Ewald raised his hand, with a resigned expression on his face. I concede. When Ewald had heard of Vasco's descriptions of Incinerate Anthem, Ewald didn't think much of the sacred gear, but sacred gears always increased in strength the more compatible the user was with the sacred gear and the host's actual vitality. Noah inhabiting the vessel of Noah, the 10th generation descendant of Adam, the first man, and the main ancestor of every human after the Great Flood, already had an unnatural compatibility with the Holy Cross, Incinerate Anthem. Furthermore, adding the malfunctioning X-rank skill protection of the faith due to no one being able to regulate the effects, it only increased the compatibility even further, each blessing making Noah a more perfect human. Now against someone who only had an above-average holy element aptitude and a wooden sword in hand, it would have been even weirder if Noah had lost. The only reason Noah had trouble with Durandal in the first place was the aspects of indestructibility and sharpness. You have defeated the second strongest exorcist and wielder of 2 Excaliburs, Ewald Cristaldi. You have obtained the rare achievement, so I can also wield Excalibur. Plus 5 free pulls. Well, at least he was one more step closer to Eternal Arms mastery. But now knowing of the malfunctioning nature of protection of the faith, did he really need to have that skill? Decisions. Dulio's eyes widened in surprise when Ewald conceded. The man he couldn't even scratch was defeated by Noah immediately. The reason was more because of Dulio's age and current stamina affecting how long he could use Zenith Tempest, but a loss was still a loss. I have to admit I did underestimate the firepower of Incinerate Anthem. Do I have to limit the usage of Incinerate Anthem as well? At that point it would just be relying on instinct, simulator instead of general combat. That made Ewald pause and thought. Did using Incinerate Anthem like that make you tired in any way? If it did, then Ewald could ask him to try and lower the range and try and increase the accuracy and power. Noah shook his head. It felt very similar to the usage of Wind of Niflheim, but due to protection of the faith making the energy expenditure. Being unfamiliar with such scenarios, even Ewald was kind of stumped. Then we will only have to use swords. While there are no available holy swords as of now, judging by your affinity to the holy element, it would be beneficial to train in swordsmanship now. Ewald compromised. What about my swordsmanship classes? That will be self-study to try and see if you can find variation in your abilities until we find a good tutor for the usage of holy energy. Noah blinked. A free period. Score. Dulio's face fell. That was possible. Noah looked smugly at Dulio, who looked at him with jealousy. For now, for the remainder of the time, I'll watch as you two spar and give advice. Dulio froze. He wanted him to go against that large-scale flame. You have defeated the future strongest exorcist, Dulio Gesualdo. You have obtained the rare achievement, Joker Camper, plus 5 free pulls. Plus, another short exposition chapter. Low-key wondering if I am making these chapters so short recently, but it's these that let me upload pretty often. Also, since we hit 500 PS earlier today, you'll get an extra chapter tomorrow. Rejoice. IDKY, I'm getting so much fucking power stones for my first book though, but thanks nonetheless. Dulio may be more mature now, but he's only 9. So is Lavinia. Lavinia's supposed to be ignorant originally, but since Noah is influencing her, I think it's fine for some personality changes. Cause and effect. Plus, we have power stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 power stones in the beginning for an extra chapter and then every 300 power stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter. 1100 PS extra chapter. And so on. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST, cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, power stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 23 comments, 0 vote. God's dead, so I'll change targets. Guys, I can finally start sparring with you guys now. During the breakfast, that was the first thing Lavinia said when she sat down. So was that the thing you were excited to announce yesterday and said it was a surprise? Dulio asked. After Dulio's beatdown cough spar with Noah, Lavinia had walked up to them and said she had a surprise for tomorrow. While I personally believe that the effect of the surprise would have been around 70% more effective if you said this during the actual general combat time, that's pretty good. Congrats. Noah gave a quick analysis and a thumbs up. That made Lavinia pause and thought. Noah may have been right. But who cared? After 2 weeks of being able to properly use her sacred gear, she could properly use it in combat to an extent, so Sister Daphne was sent back to evil killing duty. With her unnatural speed regarding her progress in magic, Lavinia had a large range of options when it came to fighting, and with her unnaturally large mana pool to draw from, she was rather confident in her options. So basically, when creating a surprise, while Lavinia did good in announcing the surprise, which gave us a sense of suspense, the actual time wasn't optimal. First of all, we just finished morning prayer, and since the news itself coincided with an actual time, it would have been. Noah continued explaining to Dulio, who was nodding in mock understanding. Isn't this guy overanalyzing my mistake a little too far? Stop, Lavinia interrupted. Noah and Dulio both gave a chuckle. Sorry. Dulio quickly apologized, while Noah slid over the plate with his bread with a serious expression. You think I'll be bribed with something as hard as this bread? Yes. ... Well, you're right. Lavinia swiped the bread from Noah's plate, wolfing it down. Well, at least you'll have some variation in fighting styles, right, Dulio? Seeing as Dulio hadn't been able to rival Noah's blast of flames unless he gathered energy to create a tornado or a storm, which couldn't compare to Noah's instantaneous combustion of flames he first showed in his spar with Ewald, fighting against Noah, who seemed to be emulating Ewald, was getting more stale. Well, there was the occasional time where Noah used Incinerate Anthem to create unique attacks. If someone from the modern age was watching the spars, they could recognize some as Pokemon fire attacks, an example being Fire Blast, creating the characters for Great in Kanji. Or he just coated his practice sword with flames too. Maybe Dulio actually wanted to win for once. ... Yeah. The three made their way to their separate classes, and Noah was making his way to the training ground in order to slack plagiarize create new possible moves for his Incinerate Anthem. But when Noah arrived, there was a familiar face. Wasn't that the fucking chicken nugget sister? Gabriel noticed Noah, who looked at her in confusion and smiled back. She somehow was able to get the information that Noah was lacking an available teacher to teach him the usages of holy power and requested Michael if she could teach the child. Michael, who was currently trying to look for the possible traitor who was siphoning off the unused energy of God's system, didn't pay much attention and accepted her request. When Gabriel laid eyes on Noah once more, she felt more and more of her father's presence. It made Noah very calming to be around, and combined with his rather blunt personality, Gabriel favored the child. Well, this was mainly because the more blessings that Noah was given, the more pure the belief that was boosted by protection of the faith was. Ironically, with enough time, Noah could probably control the system much better than Michael could. This was because the unused faith was more than the actual faith used, and to a point, Noah would actually be more pure than angels could be. Quote. Are you my teacher for using holy power? Noah asked, approaching her. Yep, Noah nodded. Well, she seemed like the type to be able to do so. She was an angel after all. Not that Noah knew which one she was. In the anime, only Michael was really shown, so that was the only angel he remembered. But an angel should probably know a decent amount about holy power, so Noah was pretty satisfied. So first off, we must first know how to use the holy power. Gabriel excitedly said, like it was her first time teaching this. Quote. And how do we do that? With how dense Noah's holy aura was getting, even Noah was noticing it. Normally, you would channel it through prayer or rites, but I think as long as you have faith in the Lord, you would be able to use it in a tangible form. Noah fell into thought. After all, it was hard to believe in someone that Noah explicitly knew was dead. Noah might have at least assumed it would have been an alternate universe, but the Gacha system explicitly stated that God was dead. Then, Noah thought, if I can't imagine it from God, maybe I can just have faith in the person in front of me. Sister L was the person that helped with his rather negative thoughts, and was in sense his first ever therapist in this world. Noah didn't know if every angel was this nice, but he knew that L was in essence a good person. Protection of the faith generates increased purity of prayer. Protection of the faith generates increased purity of faith. Protection of the faith generates increased purity of belief. Protection of the faith generates increased compatibility of faith bestowal to angels. Protection of the faith generates increased compatibility of faith bestowal to seraphs. Protection of the faith generates increased compatibility of faith bestowal to females. Protection of the faith generates increased power of faith bestowal to angels. Protection of the faith generates increased power of faith bestowal to seraphs. Protection of the faith generates increased power of faith bestowal to females. Seraph. Excuse me. Also, I can bestow faith. Who knew? Noah looked at the increasing notifications, that seemed to verify his possible theory. Well, let's just give it a try then. Having learned how to pray properly during his time at the training institution wasn't for nothing. However, the moment Noah started his transfer of faith. Faith was something that governed the power of specific beings. More specifically, gods. However, faith also dictated the strength of their pantheon, which was why God was considered one of the strongest on earth, with over half the world's population believing in God. God's system used this faith in order to exercise power, create miracles, and determine divine protection for humans. But with that energy being belief in God, it made it difficult for Michael to use it properly, as he was inferior to God, only being able to use only a small portion to keep it running. So where was the leftover faith going? It was the energy source used by protection of the faith, a blessing from the Abrahamic God from the Nasuverse, who was more of a force created through faith instead of a tangible thing. But as it translated over to DxD, and Noah obtained protection of the faith, what was supposed to be a minor increase in strength evolved into a blessing creation machine using the faith of over 2 billion humans of the world's 5 billion humans solely for Noah to use, much more than what Michael could effectively use. But with the addition of the blessings by protection of the faith that Noah generated was concentrated and focused onto an angel, that was also a female, and a seraph, with throne creation facilitating the transfer in faith. Now what would happen if Noah now gave Gabriel, who was in essence a lesser version of God, being able to use faith as power but wasn't able to effectively gain faith due to almost all the belief going to God, who was dead? Gabriel, as an angel considered the messenger of God, shouldn't gain faith, for only God can answer prayers and sends Gabriel as his agent. But with God's system creating irregulars, someone who wasn't able to grow was somehow gaining strength. Gabriel, who was excited to what the manifestation of Noah's holy power froze when she felt an uncomfortable feeling in her back. What was this sudden influx in faith? Its purity was like none other. Gabriel panicked, grasping at her back and glancing at Noah, not wanting to be caught, before her breath hitched. The aura behind Noah was turning into a luminescent kaleidoscopic variation of colors, manifesting as a glowing throne with 7 trumpets surrounding it. As an angel, Gabriel understood the symbolism behind the trumpets, and blinked in confusion. But her 12 wings were revealed, and Gabriel could feel a change occurring. Her wings were turning into a kaleidoscopic glass, symbolizing her authority of divine revelation, and behind her, in a semicircle, 14 trumpets appeared behind her, 7 black, 7 white. With the errors in God's system, there were multitudes of variations that not even Michael could predict. 7 angels holding and blowing 7 trumpets of revelation became 1 angel holding 7. The messenger of God became the messenger of revelation. And the 7 churches of Asia turning into 7 trumpets of benediction. Gabriel froze at the information that was entering her head, the authorities that were bestowed onto her. Finally realizing the origin of her newfound energy, she looked at Noah, who was looking at her with confusion and surprise. What the, plus, an, this is the extra chapter for the 500 PS for this week, so it's shorter. Also, I know that there's the 800 PS Power Stone thing as well, and I'll upload that tomorrow or today as I saw that today. I have abilities in mind, so look out for that. Gabriel's 100% part of the harem, by the way. Also, I'm kind of sad no one noticed the reference between Daphne and the rabbit. You know, the Great Rabbit in Rizero was made by Daphne. The population of the world in 1993 is 5 billion. If belief in God made up for around 60%, and Noah's getting more than 2 billion makes sense, cause Michael's handling of the system is vastly inferior. The support is also low-key crazy. Thanks for show, came up with the plot on the spot funnily enough, along with her powers. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter, and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter. 1100 PS extra chapter. And so on. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST, cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 10 comments 0 vote. ... Excuse me, is this you're doing, little Noah? Gabriel looked at Noah, dumbfounded. It was incomprehensible how one person was able to do the impossible and increase the natural strength of an angel, a creation of God. Noah didn't know how just praying to Sister L turned her into that. At most, he expected her to get some strength and he gets some blessings in return, but unexpectedly she turned into that. Quote ... I think so. How did you do that? Gabriel approached Noah and held his shoulders in place. Why would Noah pray to Gabriel if she asked him to pray to Father? A thought entered her head. Did Noah know that Father was dead? Noah, on the other hand, was trying to think up a good excuse. Since protection of the faith only said increased, Noah didn't know how big the increased amount actually was. But was it good to reveal protection of the faith to an angel? He was taking the energy that Michael couldn't use. But there was no other way to explain how it worked. Maybe he should run, but leaving, he didn't want to say goodbye to his newfound friends so quickly. Was he going to have to say goodbye again? Leave his newfound home once more? Was he really going to give this all up? ... Maybe it was for the best. Noah, a voice interrupted his increasingly panicked thoughts. Noah focused his eyes to be face to face with Gabriel. I'm not going to force you to tell me. I was just curious. Gabriel gave Noah a concerned expression, looking at his unfocused eyes. She instinctively brought Noah into a hug. It's fine, it was just an exclamation because I was so surprised. Gabriel pat Noah's back, whispering assurances into his ears. Noah slowly calmed down, before realizing his position. Having been rather lonely and friendless in his past life, such close contact was rather embarrassing. Lavinia didn't count. Her age and maturity was a large factor. Noah tried to slowly get out of Gabriel's hug to realize that Gabriel wasn't letting go. Could I get some space? Oh, Gabriel quickly left go. Noah backed up and looked at Gabriel, locked in. It would be a disservice to not reveal to Gabriel what sparked such a dramatic change in her appearance and abilities. Quote ... Could you keep this a secret? Noah whispered to Gabriel, who nodded with a determined expression on her face, and with a wave of her hand, created a translucent barrier around the two. Noah wouldn't explain the entire Gacha system, but protection of the faith was probably fine. Noah knew that protection of the faith used all the faith that Michael didn't use. He also knew that protection of the faith used this faith to generate blessings to empower him. So the only way Noah could use this unused faith was converting it into blessings and then applying it to himself. But nonetheless, the unused faith was a pool of energy that no one but Noah had access to. But with so much surplus energy not used for blessings, Noah sent it directly to Gabriel through prayer. Gabriel, as a creation of God and not a god boosted by faith, originally shouldn't gain any strength. A stagnant being. But what if an equivalent of 2 billion humans instantly sent their faith to a single entity? In concept, a new god should have been born. But since Gabriel was already a creation of God, it created concepts and boosted authorities and applied it to Gabriel instead of making a new god. Gabriel, as the messenger of God, had some authority as a messenger. When it was boosted, it evolved into the messenger of revelation, and as a result, Gabriel gained authorities related to revelation. Which in this case would be the 7 churches of Asia and the 7 trumpets of Apocalypse. However, Noah only knew about somehow sending a shit ton of faith to Gabriel, not the reason behind the evolution, but he could make some inferences. First of all, what's your real name? It was easier to infer the reason from the angel's authority. Gabriel. Noah nodded in thought. In his theology classes, he learned that Gabriel was the messenger of God, having announced to the Virgin Mary about the birth of the Son of God. Okay, so if we start from the beginning, I in some sense can be considered an incarnation of Noah. That made Gabriel blink in confusion. Was that possible? She had heard of descendants, but descendants almost never applied to people from the Bible, more specifically the Old Testament. This was because this was during a time where every human housed the blood of Adam, and later the blood of Noah. Every human could be considered a descendant of Noah. But an incarnation, other than Adam, the first man, Noah, the 10th descendant of Adam, and the son of Lamech was the first man to gain the advice and favor in the eyes of the Lord after the birth of Seth. An incarnation of Noah. Gabriel paused. It had been multiple millennia since she had seen Noah, but if Noah had said that he was, with the purity of his aura, it was hard to refute his statement. She nodded, dazed at the revelation. Yeah, so I have this skill called protection of the faith. It is in a sense the manifestation of being chosen by God. Gabriel nodded. Normally, it's supposed to give me blessings from God. But you know how the Lord is. Noah trailed off, seeing as he remembered when Gabriel was reminded of God's death. On cue, Gabriel's expression fell slightly, but nodded. Because of his passing, there's no one to stop God's blessings, and you know how Michael can't use God's system completely. While Gabriel didn't know how Noah knew this information, she had already said that she would keep everything secret and wouldn't force Noah to speak. Just having Noah explain was a godsend. Yes, brother can't control God's system effectively because he can't sit on the throne of God in the 7th heaven and gain his authority. She explained. So protection of the faith, which has the purity of God's favor, and no one to regulate it, is using all of the faith that the system is leaking. That made Gabriel freeze. With how little Michael could actually control God's system, putting in all his effort to prevent it from deteriorating, this protection of the faith is actually controlling all of the leaking energy. Gabriel immediately wanted to call it out, but she trusted Noah. There was no reason for this kind child to lie to her. And since I can only use it through blessings, the remainder of the faith, the protection of the faith had control over, I sent to you, Gabriel. Why me and not Michael? She whispered. Noah didn't really know why, but it was just a feeling. I don't know. Sometimes, it was the most impulsive of decisions that showed a person's inner beliefs and thoughts. Because Sister L was the first person that comforted Noah when he was at his lowest, he instinctively wanted to return the favor. It may have been luck that Gabriel was the first person he met during that time, but it was Gabriel's choice to help and comfort him, and Noah was obligated to return the favor. Gabriel hesitated, before giving Noah a smile. Thank you. She couldn't force Noah to give this power to Michael. But Noah gave too much to Gabriel for her to not give anything in return. But this is too much, Noah. Are you sure it's okay? Noah gave a smile. While it's nice to become Reinhard, and he would still be Reinhard, if he wasn't able to use the energy unless to create new blessings, then why not use it to return the favor? It's fine. Just giving you what I'm not using. Noah wouldn't use this to emotionally blackmail Gabriel, cause why the fuck would he? It's like giving Gabriel the rest of his fries just because he couldn't finish it. It would be stupid to hold it over her because she ate the leftover fries. Gabriel hugged Noah once more, but much more tightly, her kaleidoscopic wings covering them like they were in a cocoon. Wasn't I supposed to learn how to use holy power? Gabriel blinked, realizing her original purpose. Slowly releasing Noah from her grasp, she gave an abashed smile, a tint of red on her face. Sorry, little Noah, I might have gotten a little sidetracked. Gabriel looked at her wings, attempting to dematerialize them, but instead of folding into her back and dematerializing, the wings and trumpets became more clear and clear like glass, before becoming fully translucent. But this lesson may have to be delayed. While I do know how it would work if you prayed to God and was able to access holy power in return, because your object of faith is me, could we delay this lesson until tomorrow? Gabriel admitted. With so much new authorities, it was hard to know what the returns would be for Noah's holy power. Would it manifest like how it normally would, or would it be completely different? Noah gave a smile. Nice. A class with absolutely nothing. Don't worry. Unless I die, I can just keep praying to you. That made Gabriel a little abashed. Yes. Then I will see you tomorrow, Noah. Gabriel gave Noah a familiar hug, but this time, she hesitated for a second. Then, with a soft smile and no real reason she could name, she placed a gentle kiss on his forehead. Chew. Before Noah could even register what happened, Gabriel vanished. Noah froze in place. ... Excuse me, now what the hell was that? Plus, Gabriel was an angel, a seraph, a paragon of purity. The very definition of childlike innocence. Gabriel didn't know what prompted her to kiss Noah. Was it affection? Was it gratitude? Or maybe it was something else entirely. She didn't understand what she was feeling right now. All she understood was that her chest felt warm in a way she had never experienced. It just felt right. Like the two were different sides of the same coin called faith. Noah may have had the weight of belief of over 2 billion humans on Earth, and when it came for someone to believe in, he chose her. Gabriel. For some reason, knowing that made her heart ache with something that she couldn't put a name to. Plus, here's your 800 PS chapter. Y'all will be getting a chapter later today. Why am I getting power stones so fast, like slow the fuck down? I literally opened up a Bible to check if Noah was the first person after Adam to be favored by God. I really be opening up a Bible for a fanfic like TS crazy. Also, people may dislike the MC in the beginning. That's cause it's hard for him to get attached to people, so he makes jokes and downplays his emotions. I didn't really plan his personality to be that way, wanting to create a funny mic, but it somehow came like this, lol. Sorry if the mix personalities cringe. Too late to change that. Also, it's really hard to give Gabriel a reason to actually love someone, cause she's an angel. I hope I did her justice. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter, and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter complete. 1100 PS extra chapter. And so on. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST, cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 20 comments 0 vote. Yellow brick road to prison. Quote. Did something happen during your holy power lesson? Dulio asked Noah as he saw Noah scooping up his food with no thoughts in mind. Noah was in the middle of wondering why Gabriel had kissed his forehead. As a natural overthinker, there was multiple reasons why he assumed why Gabriel had kissed his forehead. First, it was the emotion of a parent kissing a child goodbye. This made the most sense. First off, it was because he was, 9. Second, it was with the emotion of thankfulness, and she did it on the spot. This also made a decent amount of sense. The one that made the least amount of sense was that Gabriel had fallen in love with him. Noah completely ruled this out because it made 0 sense. First off, Noah was a human, Gabriel was an angel. Second, Noah was 9. Gabriel was in the generation with Adam. That was thousands of years older than him. Some people say if the age gap is over 1000, age doesn't matter. Hold up. That's not romance, it's a yellow brick road straight to prison. Third, Gabriel didn't seem like the type to fall in love. Rather, she seemed so ignorant that it was rather incomprehensible to him to see Gabriel falling in love. Or rather falling into sin. Well, Noah was a pussy when it came to romance, so he'd shove that shit show out of his mind for now. Or would he? Guys, as it was the first thing Noah had said that meal, it got the attention of both Lavinia and Dulio. What? Noah crossed his fingers and rested his chin on them in a thinking pose, closing his eyes in thought. Sometimes the truth is weirder than a lie. Noah believed in such a statement. If an angel kissed someone, what would the reason behind why the angel kissed that someone? That made Dulio and Lavinia pause. The thought of Noah having gotten kissed by an angel didn't even register in their heads. They assumed that something happened during his lesson that led him to this multi-layered question. This would test the theological knowledge that Lavinia had learned over the past 2 weeks. First, necessary information for the scenario was important. What is the age of the someone? Dulio asked, mimicking Noah's position, having finished his meal. Let's say a child. Dulio hummed in thought. That didn't sound good. Where was the kiss initiated? Lavinia asked. The forehead. That changed things. The forehead as a location was a very ambiguous area to figure out the meaning behind a kiss. Gender of the child. Male. Gender of the angel. Female. Now this was finicky. With some scriptures having an ambiguous meaning behind homosexuality, specifically Leviticus, Lavinia and Dulio just assumed that angels wouldn't participate in homosexual activities for the sake of the argument. But if the genders were male and female, it was a bit ambiguous. Did the angel fall after the kiss? No. With Gabriel's kaleidoscopic wings, Noah didn't know how it would look if it fell, but Noah just assumed she didn't. Dulio, that wasn't a good question. If it's pure love and not lust, the angel wouldn't fall. Lavinia argued. But at least we can tell the angel didn't have lust in mind when kissing him. Dulio explained. But wouldn't angels have pure love in mind at all times? That's true. This is pretty hard without context. Lavinia complained. Well, there's no way Noah was going to give context to a hypothetical question. Noah just shrugged. Well, it's probable that the angel sees the human as more like a child, right? Look at the age gap. That's true, but if fallen angels happen occasionally, doesn't that mean they don't care? Dulio asked. That was true, but since angels don't age, wouldn't they stay stagnant? Lavinia asked. Whoa, you're straying into dangerous territory here. With no clear answer in mind, the three ended the debate with an ambiguous conclusion and headed off to the training ground. You have defeated the wielder of absolute demise, the Ice Princess Lavinia Rennie. You have obtained the rare achievement Princess Coup d'etat +5 free pulls. Plus, Gabriel entered the 6th heaven, where Michael had finished his mini-investigation. Because even approaching the 7th heaven wasn't possible unless you were a seraph, there were only 10 possible culprits, so the investigation didn't last very long. Michael had found out the loophole of not falling while in heaven existed, but seeing as all the seraphs occasionally left heaven to do their own things, so just knowing that they didn't fall when they left was enough to know that it wasn't the 10 seraphs. This meant that the origin of this issue wasn't internal. So it led to the conclusion that there was an entirely different third party that was able to siphon off God's faith, which by all definition, is impossible. It could be likened to trying to scoop up air with only your bare hands. While siphoning off the faith was basically impossible by itself, using the faith how it was wouldn't be possible either, because compatibility also factored in. For example, even the chief deity of the Greek pantheon Zeus wouldn't be able to use God's faith because it was generated by the populace to go to God, not Zeus. What Michael didn't know was that protection of the faith was bypassing this by using God's original directive regarding protection of the faith, creating blessings that had an effect on Noah. It also functioned as changing the designation of the faith from God to a neutral state to create the blessings, in which Noah gave the neutral state he didn't use to Gabriel through worship. However, while the siphoning of the faith was worrying, ironically, it actually made Michael's job much easier. Previously, the surplus that he couldn't use constantly overflowed, creating faith-dense areas where it was hard to be active in. Because the god's faith was so pure, it was volatile and corroding to the touch even to angels, and couldn't even be used directly by Michael. It was like radioactive sludge. You couldn't throw it away and it was hard to store. This new controllable amount of energy let Michael fix some bugs for once. Instead of constantly scrambling to maintain the hardware, he could now change the software. While the power supply is of a lower strength, meaning the potency was lowered, because it didn't make the system overheat, it increased the smoothness of operating the system. Michael even inwardly thanked the unknown force that took the energy. So Michael, happily fixing the bugs in the system, was disturbed by his sister Gabriel. "Michael, I'm back. Did you have fun?" Michael didn't know how long this siphon would last, so he would take the opportunity to fix as many issues as possible. It was hard to pay attention to Gabriel because of this. I found a follower. A father. Nope. Me. Is that so? I'm happy for you. Wait, what? That made Michael pause. That wasn't normal in any way. Because angels in essence were created to represent God's words, it was extremely difficult to find a group who explicitly followed an angel. Normally, when an angel attempted to generate their own faith, it typically went to God, their creator and father. Michael turned around in confusion, but laid eyes on Gabriel's appearance. 7 black trumpets, 7 white trumpets, 12 kaleidoscopic wings, intaking the bright surroundings of the 7th heaven and returning a prismatic light. What happened during the short time she was on the surface? What happened while you were on the surface? Gabriel blinked innocently, then glanced at her own wings and trumpets, as if even she was surprised. As a being who lived stagnant for so long, even the smallest changes were hard to get used to. But her entire look had changed. Looking at the trumpets, Michael could infer the meaning behind the 7 black trumpets. The trumpets of the apocalypse. Written in the book of Revelation, it is a series of divine judgments and finishes with the establishment of God's kingdom. Michael didn't know if the 7 white trumpets signified the 7 churches of Asia Minor, or the 7 seals. Or he was completely wrong and they signified the 7 deadly sins and the 7 heavenly virtues. How did this happen? Did this negatively affect Gabriel in any way? My believer, he prayed to me and this happened. She gestured towards herself. Does it hurt? Are you uncomfortable in any way? Is there any side effects? How did he do it? That made Gabriel shut her mouth. As an angel, Gabriel preferred not to lie, and thankfully, Michael easily caught on. So you made a covenant to keep it confidential then? Gabriel gave a small nod in response. Well, if it doesn't harm you in any way, there's no justification for me to dislike this change. Michael reasoned. Michael assumed that the person who changed Gabriel was the same person who was siphoning off God's faith. It was fairly obvious to tell what happened. One day the faith was gone, and soon after, Gabriel comes home, supercharged with faith and evolved. While he didn't know how Gabriel's believer changed the target of the faith from God to Gabriel, everything Gabriel's believer did actually helped heaven. He helped with the smoothness of God's system and even empowered his sister. Both helped increase the general safety of heaven. There was no negatives from this event at all. While it was originally concerning that God's faith was getting siphoned off, if it was getting transferred to Gabriel then that was perfectly fine. Rather, he should thank the person who was able to make this possible. Gabriel smiled in relief and replied with a soft voice. Thank you, older brother. No need to thank me in particular, Michael responded with a smile. What brother would I be if I didn't wish for the safety of his siblings? You should thank the person who made this possible. I did. Gabriel's smile of relief now revealed a hint of bashfulness, her soft voice having a more demure vibe. Michael paused as he looked at Gabriel's change in tone and atmosphere. Did he see that correctly? Gabriel, the chief angel of chastity, one of the heavenly virtues, was shyly blushing like a girl in love. Michael knew that chastity could be interpreted in 2 different ways. While it meant not engaging in sexual activity, there was an exception, if the person had a spouse. Was Gabriel looking for a spouse? Was that even possible? Well, the impossible seemed to be happening in front of him right now. If Gabriel did, Michael would. Well, Michael didn't know what to do. It would be heartless of him to prevent her sister from participating in romantical activities like falling in love, even more so if he was both her and heaven's benefactor. But, this was still a delicate time. While there was an unspoken armistice, the Great War hadn't technically ended officially. No treaty was written, no armistice. It seemed Gabriel hadn't explicitly realized her feelings regarding Heaven's benefactor, so Michael could rest easy for now, but if in the future she wanted Michael's assistance. Well, if Heaven's benefactor wanted to get her sister, she would have to go through her siblings first. Plus, here's the daily chapter. I know we hit 1100 PS. The chapter for that one is coming tomorrow. I already wrote 3 chapters today, gimme a break. Please slow down. I was low-key thinking of limiting the amount of extra chaps per week or increase the gap between PS, but since the support's so crazy, I'll just keep it as is. Also, it sucks that I'm low-key doing a lot more research on Christianity more than I would like to for this fanfic. This was more of a heaven world building chapter. I'll build more on the world when the 3 are greenlit to go to missions. But it is a sort of slice of life, so don't get mad if it's kinda slow. Since a lot of characters are younger and their environment is different, it's probably fine for some personality changes. I think I said this before though. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. I don't have confidence for my first book, so doing this for fun. 500 Power Stones in the beginning for an extra chapter and then every 300 Power Stones for another chapter after that. So, 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter complete. 1100 PS extra chapter, writing in progress. 1400 PS extra chapter. And so on. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST, cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, Power Stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 24 comments, 0 vote. Cool, power up. Hello, Noah. Gabriel showed a bright smile to Noah and waved to him, who was walking over to her. Noah had just decided to not worry about it. If Gabriel didn't say anything, he wouldn't either. Hello, Gabriel, he waved back. Or do you need me to call you Sister L while we're here? Gabriel tilted her head and tapped her chin in thought. While Gabriel knew that using her pseudonym would be safer, she preferred Noah to call her by her actual name. Well, it was just the 2 of them, so it would probably be fine. Gabriel is fine. Noah nodded. Okay, I experimented with how my powers worked yesterday, so I'll explain it to you. Gabriel started with her explanation. Originally, as holy power is generated as a form of give and take from God's system. You give faith, God's system allows you to use holy power in return, mainly through iconography. So if someone prayed to God, the system would allow boosted holy power through objects such as a crucifix. Vasco Strada, someone who was more devout than most, didn't even need iconography, directly channeling the holy power through his body. But Noah gave his faith to Gabriel. With the density of his faith, this meant that not only would he get a large number of holy power in return, he would get abilities through Gabriel's iconography because he was Gabriel's sole believer or the equivalent. With no large number of believers to dilute the strength of her iconography, Noah in turn took a majority of the returns. I think I understand a little of it. Then try. Gabriel was excited to see what Noah's returns would be. She knew her icons as a newly evolved angel of revelation included trumpets, glass, and the number 7. She remembered seeing a vague outline of 7 trumpets, but since Noah didn't actually condense his holy power and was just praying, it was hard to know if that was the actual return. Who knew if he could change his returns? Noah nodded and closed his eyes. Looking at Gabriel's new angel form made it easier to have a sense of worship, cause it looked super cool. Coolness for the win. Noah didn't know if it was because he was thinking of Gabriel when he was thinking of icons to use, but as the holy power condensed, from his back, 7 kaleidoscopic wings similar to Gabriel sprouted to his right side, and 7 gold trumpets appeared from his left, surrounding the left part of his head in a semicircle. Above his head was a triangular prismatic halo. In a sense, he was half of Gabriel. Gabriel looked at it in astonishment and satisfaction. Just knowing she was matching with her believer made her chest bloom with delight. Noah looked at his new appendages. Well, seeing as he was thinking of Gabriel herself as the icon of channeling the holy power, it wasn't that strange. Well, it looked cool, so he was pretty satisfied. Host has created an original skill, Nephilim of Revelation A+ rank. You have created an original skill. You have obtained the epic achievement Nephilim of Revelation +10 free pulls. Well, that made him pretty satisfied too. Can you fly with the wings? Gabriel asked with curiosity. While having wings looked cool, if it only was on his right side, how would that even work? Noah looked at his new wings, and found that instead of actually being a physical appendage, it was more of a symbolical appendage, and while he could move it, it wouldn't bring him into the air. I don't think so. Gabriel hummed with minor disappointment, but bouncing back just as quickly. So what can you do with this? Do you have some of my powers? I don't actually know. Noah channeled some holy power into the wings, and the wings changed colors. The first wing turned to a blinding white. The second wing turned into a fiery red. The third wing turned into an unfathomable black. The fourth wing turned into an ominous pale. The fifth wing turned into a ghastly gray. The sixth wing turned into a astral blue. The seventh wing turned into a muted yellow. Now that Noah looked at the first four, it kind of looked like this might represent the 7 seals written in the Book of Revelation. Gabriel interrupted his thoughts. The first 4 represented the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. White for conquest, red for war, black for famine, and pale for death. If one considered the other 3, it was easy to extrapolate the meaning behind the other 3 colors. While the 7 seals had an ominous meaning behind them, Gabriel was pretty satisfied with Noah's new abilities. Noah was also satisfied. Since this was made of holy power, there was no reason to hide the origins of this ability. Even though Incinerate, Anthem and Furthest Earth were all extremely broken in terms of firepower and versatility, having a second form was cool. The two continued to experiment with Noah's new abilities. The first wing, when Noah activated it, released white feathers that lowered the fighting spirit of anyone who was touched by it for a short while. Because it meant conquest, the ability to win without bloodshed made sense. The second wing released red feathers that worked similar to Flucticulus Diana, creating conflict even between allies, but when he tested it on Gabriel it didn't really work. Well, he only used 1 feather, so it wasn't a surprise. The third wing released black feathers that through impact emitted a dark smoke that absorbed any energy, whether it was their vitality, calories, any source of energy, and sent it back to Noah. However, Gabriel seemed to have an unlimited amount, as she was smiling for some reason. The fourth wing, contrary to what it did, released 4 types of pale feathers. It was plague, decay, sleep, and aging. Noah only really used sleep, and Gabriel said that it made her a little tired. The fifth wing didn't expel any feathers, but became more translucent. Noah didn't really know what it did yet, but Gabriel had said that since it had to do with the souls of the martyrs, it would probably allow him to talk to ghosts or martyrs. The sixth wing expelled feathers that when touched, warped the perspective of the person, making them see things in black and white, and teleported them into a random position, whether it be upside down or laying down. The seventh wing, when activated, glowed, creating a field where everyone in that location couldn't make any sound or couldn't move. There was probably more effects, but Gabriel was the worst person to test this on. The two continued to test out the trumpets and even the triangular prismatic halo above him, which funnily enough, summoned Gabriel herself. After saying goodbyes, Noah waved goodbye to Gabriel as he went to eat. Goodbye Noah. Gabriel waved to Noah. Bye Gabriel. Plus, Dulio, you better watch out, Noah said with a serious expression. Dulio blinked in confusion. Why was this the first thing that Noah was saying when he sat down for lunch? Lavinia too, Noah added, getting an eyebrow raise. For what? For I have a new power-up, Noah mock bragged. Now I have something to use other than just swords. Dulio was rather happy. If Noah had a new ability, it would mean that he wouldn't need to lose to someone who wasn't using any supernatural abilities. Losing to Noah only with a wooden sword was a blow to his pride. Did you learn something during your holy power lesson? Lavinia asked. Hell yeah, I did. Well, good for you. Dulio shrugged, before remembering what his instructor said during his lesson. Also, I heard from my swordsmanship tutor that the wielder of Excalibur Transparency was retiring. So what? Noah raised an eyebrow. Sorry to tell you, but Noah held the original Excalibur. He didn't really want to wield those. Could he even really call them fakes? Even the flaming sword was multitudes ahead, just for the effect of increasing the potency of protection of the faith. Since your affinity with the light element is pretty high, they might see if you're compatible with the sword. Dulio explained. Well, even if I am, they probably won't give it to me, Noah reasoned. He already had Incinerate Anthem, so giving that Excalibur to him who probably needed it the least was a stupid move by the Vatican. Well, finding someone with a large amount of light element in their bodies is rare, so if you're compatible they might just give it to you until they find someone else who can wield it. Dulio countered. Dulio did have a point. Natural holy sword wielders only appeared once a decade, making them extremely rare. Even now, because no one was qualified to wield Durandal, Vasco still held ownership of the blade despite being 72. Yeah, I guess you're right, Noah conceded. If he wasn't mistaken, it was only after the Holy Sword project when they developed the crystallized light element. So during this time, finding holy sword wielders was harder than finding a needle in a haystack. Can I get a hint on your power-up? Lavinia asked, having consumed her lunch already, garnering a bewildered look. Why does it look like she's finishing her food even faster the more time passes? But Noah shook his head. Nah, that would ruin the surprise. But let me tell you, it looks cool as fuck. Language. Dulio interrupted. Am I also going to get tested? Lavinia asked. Well, maybe. The tests in the beginning was for your affinity with holy power, which is different than your light factor. Dulio explained. His affinity with holy power was also pretty low, but since he never actually tested for his light factor because all holy swords were used, Dulio didn't know his compatibility. God couldn't have made me this perfect. Noah brushed his hair back with mock flair. I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better. This resulted in two deadpanning faces. Yeah, sure, how do you calculate? Lavinia started. Stop there. Math doesn't translate to actual intelligence. And when was the camera invented? Dulio added. Hold it. Memorization doesn't translate to actual intelligence. I'm street smart, you see. Sure, Lavinia agreed with doubt. What's with that tone? Noah frowned. I won't be going easy on you during practice. I want to apologize. Lavinia backtracked. When Noah used Incinerate Anthem on Lavinia's absolute demise, it wasn't even a competition. Dulio laughed at Lavinia's predicament. You think you're special, Dulio? Nah, you're getting cooked too. Noah added. Can I apologize? Plus, another short slice of life chapter. This is the extra chapter for the 1100 PS. I'll write the actual daily chapter later today and I'll post the 1400 PS chapter later tomorrow. I really can't be doing this constantly, so I'm going to increase the PS goal to 2100 so I can get a fucking break. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter complete. 1100 PS extra chapter complete. 1400 PS extra chapter writing in progress. 2100 PS extra chapter. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. KST cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, power stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 16 comments, 0 vote. Sigilo di vapor del giudizio celeste. Noah stood across Dulio, standing perfectly still. Dulio held his hands out in preparation. Recently, he realized that by combining some elements he could create synergetic effects. Actually, this realization hadn't happened recently. He always knew he could connect some stuff like water and lightning, and earth and wind, but recently during his science classes he learned something interesting. By creating flames as hot as he could, and then combining it with water as cold as he could without making it freeze, he could artificially create a steam explosion. Noah's Incinerate Anthem was a finicky sacred gear to go against. While the name of the sacred gear automatically made people assume that it was fire that was created, it was actually the phenomenon of burning. This was because the flames that Incinerate Anthem controlled wasn't actually fire, but holy flames. He had originally tried to counter the flames with ice and water, but it somehow burned them. The holy flames didn't work as effectively against absolute demise, because instead of the doll manipulating ice, it actually created the phenomenon of freezing. The only reason Incinerate Anthem beating absolute demise being that the user's base strength was much stronger. So if Dulio could create an explosion that was so quick that the flames couldn't burn it, it would probably work. Noah looked at Dulio with a neutral expression. Noah had said that he had a Power up, but this was Dulio's newly created trump card. The rest of his moves took too long to create. An instantaneous move against an instantaneous move. Dulio created this move specifically to counter Noah's instant flame blast. Dulio would have to use 4 elements simultaneously at a high accuracy. The fire element at the hottest he could generate. The water element at the coldest he could make. The earth element to encase the fire and water to remove any chances of air getting released. And the wind element to send the bomb flying. He was so proud of it that he even named the move Sigillo di Vapor del Giudizio Celeste. Cardinal Cristaldi. Noah looked at Dulio's face of concentration, sweat dripping from his face even before the spar happened. If I have a power up, can I use it before the spar starts? Instinct was blaring warning signals, something that hadn't occurred against Dulio before. Mainly because Noah's constant spamming of Incinerate Anthem the moment the spar started prevented Noah from actually being threatened. During the spars where he only used swordsmanship, using instinct was normal. But Noah wanted to flex his new form so he didn't hold a practice sword. As long as you don't attack or prepare an attack, it's permitted. Noah closed his eyes as he started his prayer to Gabriel. His 7 wings and 7 trumpets materialized behind him. Ewald blinked in bewilderment and his eyes widened when he realized what he was looking at. Lavinia had a similar reaction, widened eyes but with admiration instead. Only Dulio was still locked in. While there was a momentary loss of focus when he saw the rather noticeable change, Dulio was ready. I'm ready. The tension rose as the count lowered. Noah, who wanted to flex his abilities, had his hands out to use the 6th trumpet. While Noah and Gabriel had assumed the 7 golden trumpets would be the trumpets of the apocalypse, but they were large-scale buffs, and were the 7 churches of Asia Minor. The 6th trumpet, Philadelphia, was the defensive buff, creating gates for repositioning and escaping, and he could even use it as a shield. When the protected is doing righteous acts, it even granted temporary invulnerability, but since it was a spar, that effect didn't take place. As the countdown reached 0, Dulio released his new move, and the 6th trumpet blew an overwhelmingly loud and clear noise, causing Lavinia and Dulio to wince. But it didn't matter. His shot was released at speeds approaching 150 meters per second. While it was slower than a bullet, it was much faster than Noah's flame propagation speed. As Noah walked backwards into the gate that he created, the stone cannon impacted against the gate, crumbling. Dulio's confident expression fell, and as Noah walked forward once more through the gate, he was already behind Dulio. Monthly quest completed. Defeat Dulio Gesualdo 20 times in a spar 2020 plus 20 free pulls. After vaguely explaining his new ability to Cardinal Cristaldi, Noah went into his room with his 45 free pulls. Since he didn't really need Eternal Arms Mastery because of Protection of the Faith, Noah just decided to do 4 10 pulls for a random specialized character card and 5 pulls for the fully random general pull. He could save until 50 pulls, but the thing he got from the card wasn't guaranteed. And also, if he used all 50 for one specialized character card, then he would only get 50 points to pull on the stat point Craft Essence banner. But if he did 4 10 pulls he could have 200 points for 20 pulls on that banner. He didn't even get points for the freebies last time. Because Protection of the Faith boosted up his stats by letters, he needed to get his stats to at least E rank to get D rank stats. This novel's name was Gambling with Fate, not Noah's Church Experience. Use 40 points for 4 random specialized character cards. Character card Girl of the Moon Tsuki no Sango. Character card Voyager Fate Requiem. Character card Leonardo B. Harway Fate Extra. Character card Hisui and Kohaku Sukiheim. Damn, he knew absolutely none of these characters. But who knew if they were pretty strong or not? Noah used the first skill card. Extra skill Limestone Creation and Manipulation B+ rank. Was there even limestone on the moon? But it seemed to function similarly to Noah's Wind of Niflheim, so another creation skill. Next, extra skill Flight Mana C+ rank. Well, there wasn't much of a reason for Noah to fly seeing as he had furthest Earth, but if he used it in conjecture with Nephilim of Revelation, then maybe Noah could use it as a cool factor. Next, extra skill Sword Camelot, Castle of the Assembled Brilliant Holy Sword B rank. Noah couldn't tell jack shit from this extra skill, as the name literally told nothing. What does it do? It creates a castle where for 3 minutes, no one can disturb the host's 1v1. Oh, this is pretty useful. However, it only lasts 3 minutes and can be interrupted by a holy sword. The time limit was kind of a negative, but having something similar to a bounded field where he could freely 1v1 is pretty cool and interesting. Last character card. Extra skill synchronization CA+++ rank. Oh, this one looks pretty useful. What's it do? Through the exchange of bodily fluids, host can transfer any kind of energy to another. Noah blinked at the description. Why does this sound like an ability solely made for an adult game? Like the entire mana transfer thing in Fate. The effect of the energy depends on the user of synchronization and the specific bodily fluid. I don't think I'll be using this one anytime soon. Plus, I really hate how short this fucking chapter is, but before I started writing tomorrow, I wanted to ask if y'all are fine with me creating completely new plots, seeing as this is fucking 15 years before canon. I already have a plot drafted, but it isn't canon. TBH, people should expect self-made plots if y'all reading a fanfic started 15 years before canon. This chapter is more if I should enhance the draft or not. Don't worry, your 1400 PS chap will still come tomorrow. Also, I'd be surprised if y'all knew about 2 of the character cards. I didn't roll Voyager's Servant variation, so it's the one from Fate Requiem. It's written that he can fly using his master's mana. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter complete. 1100 PS extra chapter complete. 1400 PS extra chapter writing in progress. 2100 PS extra chapter. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, power stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 23 comments 0 vote. Shrimp fried rice. So you're telling me a shrimp fried this rice? Noah asked the server with a serious expression, eyebrow raised. Quote. Excuse me. The server looked confused. Are you talking about the shrimp fried rice? No, I'm asking if. Dulio covered Noah's mouth. Sorry for my friend here, he's kind of. Dulio waved his finger around his head, and Lavinia, who was sitting next to Noah, nodded rapidly. The server gave a wry smile. The gold-lined robes they wore signified them as VIPs, but they sure didn't act like it. He gave a bow and quickly left their vicinity. With the retirement of the user of Excalibur Transparency and several other swords such as Excalibur Galatine held by the Vatican, there was a Vatican-wide event to choose possible successors. This large event meant that even though other holy sword wielders hadn't retired yet, their swords were checked for compatibility with the younger generation. As the event happened only a few times every decade, every person of any age is required to check their innate light factor. This meant that even children who weren't even young enough to go to school were tested. While back then this wasn't a thing, with the holy sword wielders of the past generations getting older and older, there was concern regarding the current state of young holy sword wielders. The higher-ups, who were getting nervous, even brought potential children from church-funded orphanages who wanted to fight or had potential due to some movement from the Grigori. While they didn't know what they were planning, it put them on edge. With Cardinal Priest Vasco Strada putting on years, even Durandal was one of the blades for the choosing. This meant that the Longinus wielders Dulio, Noah, and Lavinia were able to leave the bland slop and eat a wide variety of foods, as even foods from different cultures were served. Then Noah, who saw what looked like shrimp fried rice, wanted to make a food joke after so long of eating overly healthy slop. Unfortunately, Dulio and Lavinia, who were paranoid that if Noah was too disrespectful, they wouldn't get the chance to eat good food, didn't feel the same. So Noah unfortunately ate his food with Dulio and Lavinia watching him to stop him from making vulgar jokes and getting attention. As VIPs unwillingly, the three were held up to a standard as the Vatican's rising trump cards due to their possession of a Longinus. Unfortunately, having such high investment and high expectations resulted in some dissent and jealousy of the existing newbie exorcists and even older exorcists, who even after years of service, hadn't even got a sliver of recognition. This was because the church glorified the outliers, not the norm. Technically, these outliers were the main force against the other factions, so it was expected, but despite this, there were some exorcists who saw this as nepotism. Noah couldn't fault their thinking. But if they really wanted to be like him, they should have been better, seeing as he wasn't even born with Incinerate Anthem. It chose him. He was that guy. The Holy Sword Compatibility Selection Festival, what a long-ass name. They even said that if there wasn't enough new Holy Sword wielders, they would have another festival in 5 years. With some Holy Swords obviously having more requirements than others, it was set in a leveled format. There were multiple rooms filled with Holy Swords of different levels of requirements. Obviously, some Holy Sword wielders couldn't attend, such as DxD, who would rather spend his time in Japan with his wife and daughter than attend this festival. So while it was unfortunate they couldn't have how to clear, with consideration with DxD's young age, they didn't press the issue. Seeing as the actual festival started after the representatives and candidates of the different churches arrived, the trio just decided to watch the people on the floor below them to see if they could guess any new Holy Sword wielders. As VIPs, they sat with the more older and experienced exorcists, such as Vasco and Ewald, despite only being 9. Rather, Noah and Lavinia were 10, as it was already March, while Dulio was still 9. Oh, that guy looks pretty strong. Lavinia pointed at a rather serious-looking teenager with slicked back hair. Now that's got to be stereotypical. Automatically looking at a man and thinking he's strong. I bet on that woman over there. Noah pointed at a talkative woman who reminded him of Astolfo. Wait, that could actually be a man. I don't think that's what Lavinia meant, and why are we even betting? What money do we even have to bet? Dulio interjected. How about the winner chooses someone to write a complaint about the food? Noah proposed. That caused both Dulio and Lavinia to go silent. Quote. No, how about the loser has to write a complaint? Dulio did a 360. The food was horrid, but he didn't have the courage to give a complaint to the church. Noah didn't want to because he couldn't be bothered, and Lavinia had the same issue as Dulio while also not being that picky. Dulio knew that if anyone except him won, he would probably be chosen. Noah would definitely choose him cause it was funny, and Lavinia had a higher chance of picking him over Noah. Quote. I agree. Lavinia may not be picky, but even she was getting sick of the slop. Then how about? Noah looked at all the prospective exorcists below him. He counted around 50 who actually looked trained, and another 100 who looked nervous and much younger. They must be the children from the orphanages that had even the smallest amount of affinity towards holy energy. Since devices that measured specific holy element in a person's body was both expensive and delicate, they probably shipped them over to the Vatican the moment they had some potential. Noah found that a little morbid, but he already knew the church was kind of iffy. Noah didn't really know what the angels were really doing either. Not his goat Gabriel though, she chill. His holy power lessons with Gabriel devolved into playing random board games she brought from who knows where and just talking with each other. She seemed pretty satisfied with it though, and Noah wasn't actually doing any work, so he didn't mind either. Let's choose 5 exorcists down there and another 5 newbies, and the person with the least amount of people chosen by a holy sword has to send the complaint. Noah explained. That's kind of fair, Dulio reasoned, but who's choosing? Me first. Noah interrupted, and before Dulio could even register what Noah said, Lavinia spoke up. Me next. Quote. Dulio looked at Noah and Lavinia, who both looked like they were innocent. He sighed. Yeah. Then I choose that strong-looking guy. Noah pointed at the person who Lavinia pointed at earlier. Hey, what happened to stereotypes? Lavinia complained. She was going to choose that guy. Are you talking about David Serro? An unfamiliar voice could be heard behind them. The 3 froze. Noah looked behind him to see the Holy Hulk, Vasco Strada. Your Eminence. Dulio started, confused whether to bow or not. We're all VIPs, no need for formalities. Vasco waved it off. So, you think David can get a holy sword? Vasco asked again. Yeah, I mean he looks pretty strong. Noah shrugged. It was more because he wanted to steal Lavinia's pick, but there was no reason for him to admit that. Vasco laughed at the rather childish reasoning. Well, his master is the one retiring with Excalibur transparency, so I'd say your pick is valid. He explained, but I bet on that young blonde girl over there. Why, Your Eminence? Why are you here instead of with the other cardinals? A nun walked over to Vasco, who was making the younger exorcists on the first floor nervous just by his presence. Noah looked at Vasco with disbelief. This guy just sneaked out of his station and didn't get caught with that kind of build. Respect. The three watched awkwardly as Vasco was led back by three sisters. They awkwardly looked at each other before looking back at the people below, as if that conversation never happened. Noah scanned the faces below while Lavinia was contemplating which exorcist to choose. Wait, isn't that Griselda over there? Noah pointed to Griselda, who was talking to a group of the younger untrained group. Oh, that is Griselda, maybe that was what she was doing until now, Lavinia murmured. Griselda was one of the few exorcists who were able to visit the three, and she visited at least a few times a month. However, a month ago, Griselda was dispatched for a long-term mission, and now that they saw her, it was obvious what her mission was. Looking at Griselda kindly talking to a group of children who looked like they were familiar with her, it seemed she was one of the people organizing the festival. Griselda noticed the three and waved at them, and the three waved back. I choose Griselda, Lavinia said. Dang it, Dulio complained. He had seen her first and was planning to choose her, if only Noah hadn't called it out. The three continued to call out random people who looked confident or if they had a gut feeling until the festival actually started, with the exorcists down below stopping their socializing and patiently waiting in their seats. Wait, aren't we supposed to participate as well? Lavinia asked. Oh yeah, we're supposed to be the first ones since it's our big debut or something like that. Dulio trailed off. Wait, then what were they still doing here? Noah looked behind them to see Ewald walk toward them with an exasperated expression. Quote. Oh shit, plus, I know I have 2 bonus chapters to do. I'll finish them tomorrow. I went somewhere today so I couldn't write until now. So this is the daily chap. They're short because I'm still setting up the first actual arc, so this is more of an interlude and introducing more characters that you may or may not recognize. The next goal is 3,000, 2 reasons. I need time to write and I don't think it's possible, lol, good luck. Noah is finally 10. If you're curious about his birthday, it's January 15th. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter complete. 1100 PS extra chapter complete. 1400 PS extra chapter writing in progress. 2100 PS extra chapter writing in progress. 3000 PS extra chapter. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. KST, cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, power stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 28 comments, 0 vote. Le Pacel, what are you three still doing here? Ewald asked, exasperated, leading them downstairs. We were Noah started, before his mouth was immediately covered by Lavinia before he could say anything more. Quote. We were just looking at the potential holy sword wielders, Your Eminence. This is the first time seeing so much people in one area, you see, Dulio quickly responded with a plausible excuse. Quote. Ewald looked at Noah's, whose mouth was blocked, and decided to ignore it. Having been used to Noah's random comments while training the kid, even he could predict what he was going to say. There is still some time left before you're called up, but you three will be the first ones to enter the room full of holy swords. You may pick whatever holy sword chooses you, but because of your ownership of the Longinus, if someone else can wield the blade soon after, you will have to give it up. Ewald explained. Noah looked at him in confusion. If we're going to have to give it up, what's the point of us going first? That made Ewald pause. Quote. While I don't approve, some cardinals believe that showing the capabilities of our new up-and-coming exorcists could improve morale. Ewald begrudgingly explained. He also believed it to be ridiculous, and so had Vasco, but they were outnumbered by the optimistic thoughts of their peers. It kind of irked him to know how ignorant some cardinals were, but if it really did increase morale and motivation against their enemies, then Ewald didn't have much of an objection. He just believed that it wouldn't be effective as the other cardinals said it would. The unspoken fight against their enemies were a priority. The 3 plus Ewald made their way down and sat in their designated seats, getting some curious looks from some people, more specifically the orphans who were sent here, and some looks of competitiveness from the exorcist trainees who were older than them, with the occasional jealousy and envy. Noah didn't care much about the looks from other people, so he just plainly looked back at the people looking at him with a deadpan until it got awkward for the other person and they looked away first. Dulio, having a bit of experience when he used to stay with the other trainees with jealous looks, felt a little burdened, but after around a year of experience until Noah and Lavinia came, Dulio just thought them as something inevitable. Lavinia, who really only cared about the opinions of people close to her, didn't care for the jealous looks either. The host for the event called the three up to announce them as the first people to be entering the room. You know, it'd be pretty funny with all these expectations placed on us, and none of us walks out with a sword. Noah whispered to the other two as they made their way into the room. But wouldn't that lower the chances of the church actually giving us good food? Dulio asked back. That's true. They entered the White Hall to see 2 rows of holy swords, and when they looked to the right, there was 3 visually cool-looking swords. Whoa, what's that? Lavinia asked, looking at the description at the bottom of the blade. If you can't pick up any blade, choose one of these. *PFF**. Noah read the description and burst out laughing. They really had to make sure we came out with a sword. This is funny as fuck. He doubled over trying to think of the thought process. At least we have something to back up on if we can't wield any of the holy swords. Dulio also looked at the blades. While there was no aura signifying it as a holy sword, it certainly looked much stronger than the majority of the swords in the hall. But all that talk about flexing our powers and shit, and there. Noah pointed at the 3 backup swords, chortling. Other than Noah, who was oozing with confidence, Lavinia and Dulio didn't feel the same. Now that they entered the hall, they were tense. While they may not care about the opinions of their peers, the higher-ups were different. That could determine if they could actually eat good food. Noah indifferently inspected the room. It seems the further down the hall you walk, the higher the requirements are, cause I think I see Durandal all the way down there. Noah pointed at the furthest sword, where Durandal was surrounded by the 6 Excaliburs. They really did collaborate with all 3 churches if all the Excaliburs are here, Dulio commented, looking at the semicircle of top-tier holy swords. Noah nodded. For fun, he started from the beginning and picked up the swords along the way, and the aura that the holy swords emitted calmed down in his hands. Dulio and Lavinia looked at him with a little bit of resentment. Here they were, tense and nervous, and Noah was here loved by the holy swords. He wasn't even reading the descriptions, just casually picking them up one by one. Dulio slowly picked each sword up one by one, having the same tense feeling one would have when they had to see if they won the 50-50, sighing in relief when a holy sword accepted him. Lavinia was very much the same. However, Noah calmly walked forwards, ignoring Protection of the Faith's notifications. Protection of the Faith generates increased affinity with one-handed holy swords. Protection of the Faith generates increased affinity with two-handed holy swords. Protection of the Faith generates increased affinity with bladed holy weapons. Protection of the Faith. Well, there was an unexpected event with a specific sword in the hall. Noah reached out to touch it, but while it did allow him to pick it up and emitted a very small amount of holy power, Noah could tell that it didn't approve of him. He blinked in surprise, as he set it down and let go to see it glowing with holy energy once more. He looked down at the description and saw the words, and he understood to an extent why it didn't choose him. Le Picel. It sounded extremely familiar, so when he read the smaller description, lo and behold, it was the Saint of France, Jeanne d'Arc's sword. This place has more unexpected swords than I thought. Is the church supposed to be the British Museum? Noah commented, getting the attention of Dulio and Lavinia. Dulio held up the best sword he could pick. Crocea Morse, the weapon of Julius Caesar. Since he chose his weapon, he just decided to observe Noah's rather unnatural capabilities like a spectacle, as Lavinia did. Lavinia unfortunately held one of the lower-class holy swords in her hands, with an underlying disappointment in her expression. Look, it's Jean's sword. Noah showed the sword to the two. Isn't this, I don't know, supposed to be in a museum or something? I'm even surprised it even emits holy energy for you, seeing as it's a sword for a maiden, Dulio mused, but I'm holding Crocea Morse, and that's Julius Caesar's. Shouldn't this also be in a museum? Damn, Julius Caesar. The guy who said the thing. What thing? Lavinia asked. You know, I came. Noah joked, garnering a sigh from Dulio. You mean I came, I saw, I conquered. Yeah, that one, Noah chortled, putting the pistol down, gesturing for Lavinia to come give it a try. Lavinia slowly held up the weapon and holy power emitted from the blade. Oh, it works on you, Lavinia. Noah commented. Didn't you fail all the way back there? Noah pointed down the hall, getting a glare from Lavinia. It might be because Lavinia's a maiden, Dulio reasoned. Even if Le Picel had much harsher standards to males, when it came to maidens it was rather lax. Noah was the weird one in this instance, being able to wield it at all. Well, good for you Lavinia, we have a higher chance of getting better food. Noah commented. Lavinia nodded with satisfaction. Le Picel was better than she had expected. The three continued to walk forward, with Noah being able to hold every single holy sword to an extent. You know, your affinity with holy power might actually be fraudulent with how you're doing this. Dulio commented, as Noah even held up Excalibur Galatine with apparent ease, the holy sword's aura preening at Noah's touch. I must have God's blessing or something, I don't know, Noah shrugged, using his normal excuse, seeing as no one but Gabriel believed him. Yeah, Dulio waved it off, and I'm the second coming of King Arthur. She would be offended. Quote. She, wasn't King Arthur a man? Lavinia asked. Says who? King Arthur might have been a woman in disguise. Noah countered. You can't always believe the books. Yeah, but if we don't believe the books, who are we supposed to believe? Dulio shot back. Quote. Yourself. Why are you saying it like it's a question? Dulio sighed. The three finally approached Durandal and the 6 Excaliburs, their holy aura so potent that they were emitting it. Dulio and Lavinia looked at Noah with suspense, but Noah started picking them up like they were random sticks on the road. Quote. Where's the suspense? Lavinia asked, watching as Noah easily picked up 2 Excaliburs in his hands, and was even reaching for a third. Dulio nodded. It was kind of unusual for the holy sword Excalibur to not have any suspense when attempting to pick it up with such casualness. It wasn't just unusual, it was fucking weird. What? I have weapons that can't even compare, Noah commented, picking up the 6th one and holding the 6 like they were black keys a little clumsily, crossing his arms like Wolverine. Yeah, sure, Dulio waved it off, while Lavinia gave a small nod in agreement with Noah. It made sense. Want me to show you? Noah asked Dulio, putting the Excaliburs back. Quote. You aren't going to just show me your middle finger, are you? Quote. Who do you think I am? Someone who would do exactly that. Dulio deadpanned, he would know. Noah had done it before. Nah, trust. Noah held out his hands and materialized the sword of promised victory, Excalibur. Because he wasn't going to use it in a fight, the true splendor of the blade was shown. Dulio blinked at the sudden appearance of the sword, but while the sword felt peerless and all-powerful, it didn't really emit holy power. Why are you looking at Excalibur with such a doubtful expression? Put some respect on its name. Noah looked at Dulio with an eyebrow raised. The familiar name caused both Dulio and Lavinia to pause in confusion. Quote. What did you say the name of this sword is? I already said it, Excalibur. Noah waved the sword around, with the sword emitting energy like it was flexing to the broken Excalibur shards. Quote. How? What do you mean how? It must be God's blessing, Noah shrugged, putting Excalibur Proto back in his inventory. Quote. That excuse again, Dulio sighed. It was impossible for that sword to be Excalibur. First of all, the shards already existed, which meant that it was shattered. How would a complete Excalibur even exist? But the peerless aura and the sheer presence the sword had was undeniably much stronger than the 6 Excaliburs and even Durandal. The absence of holy energy was what was throwing Dulio off. Well, it wasn't like he was a snitch, so no need to ask further. Well, I believe you, so does that mean you're not choosing a sword? Dulio asked. If Noah didn't choose a sword it wouldn't be good for their future meals. Noah chortled. Nah, I'll still choose one. He casually picked up Durandal, which similar to the other swords, preened in his hands, its aura as calm as a tamed pet. But Noah just put it down without thought. He didn't really have a use for it, and since Zenobia could wield it as well, Noah didn't bother taking it. Also, the sword itself was too high profile. Quote. Wait, we're just going to ignore Noah picking up Durandal? Dulio pointed at Durandal with confusion and then at Noah. Well, didn't Noah pick up 6 Excaliburs with no issue? Lavinia asked to the side. That's true. Quote. Wanna make a bet? Noah asked Dulio. Quote. Huh, I bet that at the next festival, there'll be a natural wielder of Durandal. Quote. Excuse me, you heard what I said. Noah picked up Excalibur Transparency. It was the weapon that prompted the festival and it was an Excalibur, so the higher-ups would probably be satisfied. Also, I've picked mine. Quote. How much are we going to bet? How about one favor? Quote. I'm in. Plus. The 1400 PS extra chapter. Dude, my lats and forearms are so fucking sore, dude, I'm in pain. 6 months of not going to the gym catching up on me. I'll write the daily chapter later and the 2100 PS chapter if I have the energy. Plus, we have Power Stone goals. 500 PS extra chapter complete. 800 PS extra chapter complete. 1100 PS extra chapter complete. 1400 PS extra chapter complete. 2100 PS extra chapter writing in progress. 3000 PS extra chapter. Extra chapters will be released the day after the goal is reached, from 2 PM to 6 PM KST, cause that's when I'm free. They'll also be generally shorter than normal chapters. Normal chapters will be released every day during the times from 8 PM to 2 AM KST cause I normally get inspo throughout the day. Also, comments, power stones, and reviews are always appreciated. 12 comments 0 vote. To be continued.